Jones. Sorry, I'm under the weather, so I think we probably, Vice Mayor Jones and I decided it would probably be best for him to be running the show live. Vice Mayor?
Okay, sorry. That is correct. So I want to call this meeting to order for the afternoon of April 19th, 2022. And Tony, can we have a roll call, please?
Jimenez?
Present.
Perales?
Here.
Cohen?
Here.
Crosco?
Present.
Davis?
Here.
Esparza?
Here.
Arenas?
Here.
Foley?
Here.
Mahan?
Here.
Jones?
Present.
Licardo?
Present.
Thank you.
All right. Councilmember Cohen will introduce us to his district's Boy Scout Troop 170, who are going to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Yeah, thank you. I want to welcome the Boy Scout Troop 170 from Berryessa. They've been a valuable member group in the community, doing a lot of service for us, and they stepped up, particularly last year, to help one of our neighborhoods install a lending library in Grand Paradiso Park. So I wanted to thank them and have them come and lead our pledge today. We have the youth members of the Boy Scout Troop, Gilbert Qua, Liam Peterson, Jared Elas, and Eugene Lin. So welcome, and we'll stand for the pledge.
Audience, please rise. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Today's invocation will be provided by Karina Luna Giri, Chairwoman of the Tamian Nation. Councilmember Cohen will tell us more.
Yes, thank you, Vice Mayor. As we celebrate Earth Day this week, I've been reflecting on the rich history of the people who have been stewards of our land on which we find ourselves. I'm happy to welcome Kirina Luna Giri of the Tamian Nation today. The Tamian Nation for millennia has cared for the land in the South Bay, including the South Bay coastline that includes Alviso. Kirina Luna Giri is an enrolled citizen and chairwoman of the Tamian Nation, the Aboriginal tribe of the Santa Clara Valley. She is a board member for the Advocates of Indigenous California Language Survival and studied linguistics at the University of California, Davis. Kirina has worked for over 26 years revitalizing the language of her great-grandmother, Josefa Velasquez, and has co-authored several academic publications, including a 600-page dictionary. Kirina currently works with the state and local agencies advocating for the protection and preservation of the Tamian ancestors, cultural resources, and sacred landscapes. Kirina has also received the KQED American Indian Heritage Local Hero Award for community service and believes her greatest accomplishment is raising her 10 children with indigenous values, language, and culture. I also want to welcome her daughter Lillian, who joins her and is in the audience today.
Thank you, Honorable Mayor Licardo and City Council members, for the introduction and the opportunity to speak before you and the people of San Jose. Today, I speak from a perspective of thousands of years of intergenerational experience and knowledge passed down from our Tamian ancestors who lived throughout the Santa Clara Valley, including where we stand in this very space. Our Tamian families were taken to Mission Santa Clara, and much like Black slaves in America, we were enslaved, tortured, murdered, and exploited for our labor for over 6 decades, up until Mexicans' occupation and secularization in 1833, which freed our people from the bondage of Spanish missions, but to only find that our original homelands, villages, had been granted to Mexican immigrants. We were landless with no place to live, hunt, fish, farm, and practice our ceremonies. This is needed for the very survival as Indigenous people. So our people worked as farmhands and housemaids for ranchos as exchange for room and board. 20 years later, American won the Mexican-American War, which regranted our lands to new immigrants, furthering our displacement as a nation. In 1849, the first governor of California was elected, Peter Burnett, who stated, "A war of extermination will continue to be waged between the races until Indian race becomes extinct." Further state policies of paid bounties for the murdering of indigenous families, the scalping, mutilation, and murders. Other policies of indentured servitude made it legal for slavery and for sex trafficking of our women and children. By the time colonial settlers came to San Jose, our population, including the entire indigenous population of California, declined by more than 90%, leaving only a few Tamien survivors. Today, Tamien Nation are the descendants of those survivors. I am a descendant of Chief Tulum of San Antonio Rancheria, which is present-day eastern San Jose to Coyote Valley. He married my grandmother Yayate, one of 7 wives. She was from the Ritoxi village of Santa Clara Valley and Upper Guadalupe River to Central Coyote Creek. Our tribal citizens also have direct lineal descendancy to Santa Clara Rancheria, now home of University of Santa Clara, and San Francisco Solano Rancheria in Fremont, where Mission San Jose now stands. As a people who once lived on this land for thousands of years, who were violently displaced by 3 distinct political groups of colonial settlers in search of land, resources, and a better life, did so by the means of attempted genocide. As a response and as an act of survivance in the late 1800s, the majority of Tamien people migrated to the east to less desirable lands, seeking safety and security in the San Joaquin Valley, where many of Tamien people continue to live today. Despite the unconscionable history, we preserve much of our value system and way of life, where 200 years later, we continue to not only exist, but to thrive. Our nation had a political system, a traditional political system, up until 1991. 2 of our elder women, my grandmother and my aunt, were the leaders of our tribe. Tribal meetings were held underneath my grandmother's oak tree, where families congregated to discuss special issues and to discuss upcoming celebrations. The 2 leaders also attended meetings at the California State Capitol in Sacramento and organized a mass enrollment of the California Indian judgment rolls for our families and other people. Although we grew up in what we would call poverty, or some would call poverty, we didn't see ourselves as being impoverished, but a life filled with family, community, culture, and worldview. Our elders describe at this time, particularly this time, a hard life, but a good life. 200 years after contact, our families continue to gather mushrooms, greens, acorns, medicines. We hunt deer, rabbit, squirrel, and fish, and we continue to migrate seasonally to the Bay Area to work. And we continue to take yearly trips to the coast, a traditional practice that we have been doing for thousands of years. However, living in an ever-changing landscape due to the development in this particular area, it's increasingly difficult to gather our indigenous foods and practice our ceremonies or other ways of life. Today, we are in a state of urgency. Due to land loss and lands being withheld from our community, we risk the loss of transmission of vital cultural information that could be lost permanently within the next generation without access to our lands. Our homelands, where we have lived for thousands of years before colonization, now also your home. We hope to engage with you, the city of San Jose, the city council agencies, and with the local community to work collectively to protect all our lands for the future of all of our people who live and work in San Jose. Shururui Tamien Takwaz. Blessings from the homeland people. Thank you.
And thank you. I am now going to ask Councilmember Carrasco to virtually join me at the podium as we recognize and proclaim National Donate Life Month.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Let me know when you're ready.
Hi,
Councilmember Carrasco?
Are you ready?
Yes, we are.
Okay, great. Thank you. Well, thank you so much. And thank you for joining me as I proclaim the month of April as National Donate Life Month to promote the importance of organ donation across the country. In 2021 alone, over 40,000 organ transplants were performed. In other words, that's 40,000 lives that were positively impacted by organ donations and quite possibly saved by organ donations. Yet sadly, over 100,000 men and women and children remain on the national organ transplant waiting list, waiting a new kidney, a liver or tissue, or any other donations. Of those 100,000, 1,400 individuals are in Santa Clara County. And each day, 22 individuals on this list pass away waiting for an organ transplant. It is with great love and respect that we recognize the lives lost due to organ shortages and recognize those who have passed without a second chance at life. Fortunately for all of us, every singular organ donor saves up to 8 lives, depending on the organs donated. And the lives of 75 others can be enhanced through through tissue donation. It's also important to note that living donation exists and has saved the lives of 6,500 people in 2021. So let's give a round of applause and a huge thank you to those who bravely and selflessly offer the gift of life through organ donations. This proclamation stands to recognize their sacrifice and their great generosity. It is also with great appreciation that we honor the clinical teams and the surgeons that commit themselves to ensure that the gift of organ donation saves the lives of those waiting for a second chance at life. In the east side of San Jose, we have our very own regional medical center team who provide comprehensive care to save and heal lives in our community through donation. You are all extremely appreciated. This month of April, I challenge each and every one of you to register to become an organ donor and help save the life of a loved one in our community. While 95% of Americans believe in the importance of organ donation, only about half, or a mere 47%, are actually registered to be donors. I'm proudly registered, and I usually am there present to show off my little pink sticker, as many of you may recall. One, because I like the branding, but the other is because I'm very proud of being able to provide this opportunity for someone that may need it in the event of a life-altering situation for myself. So help give a second chance at life by registering today. Visit donornetworkwest.org. That's one word, donornetworkwest.org, or check yes when getting or renewing your ID. It's with great pleasure and a great deal of respect that I present this proclamation to both the Regional Medical Hospital CEO, Ken West, who is joining us today virtually, and Sandy Andrada, who is with Donor Network West. I believe she's there in the physical presence. Donor West was established in 1987 and serves as the federally designated organ procurement organization in Northern and Central California, as well as Northern Nevada. They work in close partnership with families, doctors, nurses, and coroners in hospitals like our esteemed Regional Medical to connect donors to recipients, resulting in life-changing outcomes. Through their collaborative work and the generous donation of individuals, they can offer the hope to heal. Please join me in recognizing their incredible, impactful work with a round of applause. And I'll ask Vice Mayor to present the proclamation and I'll ask the CEO of Regional Medical Center, Ken West, to say a few words.
All right, would you like me to go first or after the proclamation?
I'll go first, Ken.
Okay.
Sorry. Thank you so much, Councilmember Carrasco and Vice Mayor Jones. My name is Sandy Andrada. I'm the Director of Donation Development here at Donor Network West, and it's my 21st year here at this organization. And in that time, when I first started, there were only 50,000 patients in our United States waiting for an organ transplant. But today, as Councilmember Carrasco mentioned, there are over 100,000. It's due to our close partnership with Regional Medical Center San Jose that we're able to honor the wishes of patients and families to donate organs and tissues at the end of their life. Regional nurses and doctors work tirelessly and compassionately to save the lives of all patients in their care. When unfortunately a patient succumbs to their illness or injury, and the patient or their family has chosen to save lives through donation, Regional continues to provide compassionate support to these donors and their family. With every donation, Regional Medical Center security guards raise the Donate Light flag in front of the hospital with family members present. Regional also honors the donor and their families through an overhead announcement prior to the organ recovery surgery, followed by an honor walk attended by Regional staff as the donor is transported from the ICU to the operating room. Through these acts, you can see the depth of love and care Regional has for their patients and families throughout their time inside these hospital walls. In 2021, Regional had 21 organ donors and 32 tissue donors. That means so many patients were offered a second chance at life here and across the country. This translates to children like Penelope Cruz. Her family lives right here in San Jose, and because of a liver transplant, she's ready to conquer the world of elementary school. And this last year, in partnership with local artists, the San Jose Downtown Association Local Color, we were able to complete a mural on the site of Higher Fire, a local ceramic business. The mural honors two San Jose donors, Brendan Castellanos and Nancy Gutierrez, who died too young, but were able to leave their legacy on this earth as organ donors. This mural honors all of our Hispanic donors in the city of San Jose who have saved thousands of lives across the country. If you're ever in the South Market area, please check it out. Thank you again to Councilmember Carrasco and the entire City Council for proclaiming April as Donate Life Month. And I'd like to introduce Ken West as CEO of Regional.
Sure. Good afternoon, everyone. I'll be brief in my comments, but I wanted to start by thanking Sandy and the team at Donor Network West. They've been incredible partners for us here at Regional in my nearly 4.5 years at the organization. I wanted to thank Councilmember Carrasco for her unyielding support of our organization. And anytime we call on her, she's been here to support us in our various efforts. I wanted to thank Vice Mayor Jones, as well as Mayor Liccardo, for your continued support of us here at Regional. We're so proud to really play I'll call it a somewhat small and but significant role in really what is one of the most difficult times for many family members who are in this position. We do not take our responsibility lightly, but we're proud that we're able to help facilitate that process to provide life and hope for other family members around either the area or the country at large. So thank you all again for the proclamation and the recognition. And we're so proud to be here to represent the nearly 2,000 employees and active medical staff here at Regional Medical Center. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
So I would now like to recognize and proclaim April 22nd, 2022 as Earth Day and commend our climate smart champions. This Friday, April 22nd, is Earth Day. And in honor of the day, that we will be recognizing and commending our 2022 San Jose Climate Smart Champions. San Jose is determined to be a role model in the areas of sustainability, and greenhouse gas emissions reductions, and we intend to be just that through Climate Smart San Jose. Enacted in 2018, Climate Smart San Jose is a community-wide initiative to reduce air pollution, save water, and improve quality of life while meeting the greenhouse gas emission reduction targets of the Paris Agreement. The success of Climate Smart depends on effective partnerships between cities and residents, community groups, nonprofits, businesses, and other organizations within San Jose. The Climate Smart Champion Awards recognizes San Jose individuals and organizations who have made outstanding contributions to achieving the sustainability goals of Climate Smart. It is my pleasure to recognize this year's Climate Smart champions for their outstanding work to protect our health, environment, and economy in San Jose. I want to recognize the Youth Climate Champion, Silicon Valley Youth Climate Action.
Thank you.
Next, I'd like to acknowledge the mobility champion, Promotoras transportation leaders, Victoria Partida, Rosa Cordova, Isela Galvin, Jasila Cruz, Yasmin Mata, Maria Rojo, Deanna Marino, and Elizabeth Bonta. For water conservation, the water conservation champion is Stephanie Morris. Energy champion, International Children's Assistant Network, or the ICAN. The Climate Equity Champion is Myra Palagio Munoz, the Luna Executive Director. The Climate Champion of the Year, Bill DeVicini. Can we recognize and give all of our champions a warm round of applause? Congratulations. Next is orders of the day. Does anyone on the council have any changes to the printed agenda? Not hearing or seeing any. We're now on to the closed session report. City Attorney.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. We don't have anything to report out of closed session today. Thanks.
Thank you. Next is the consent calendar. Are there any items that the council wants to pull from the consent calendar? Councilmember Arenas would like to pull item 2.10, City Roadmap, Digital Equity, actions related to the construction contracts for the Mount Pleasant and Silver Creek Community Wi-Fi infrastructure, James Lick Tech Refresh and Digital Inclusion Program. Are there any other items on the consent calendar that my council colleagues would like to pull?
Vice Mayor, I'd like to pull 2.10 or 2.9, sorry.
2.9. Okay. Are there any others?
Vice Mayor, Councilmember Arenas has her hand up. That's right.
I can hear it.
Could you repeat? Also, Councilmember Arenas has her hand up on Zoom.
Okay.
As do I.
All right. Go ahead, Councilmember Arenas.
Okay, thank you so much, Vice Mayor. I wanted to move a memo that I hope that my colleagues received today. This has to do with item 2.10. And let me first start out by just recognizing the really wonderful work that our library department has completed in advancing our Access Eastside, moving it forward and providing access, free community Wi-Fi internet to a lot of our very much needed communities. And I know this is something that is very near and dear to our mayor, and he has led for many years. And so I also want to thank you, Mayor, for that really wonderful and good work. And so this blue memo is really asking some to expedite some administrative hurdles that we've seen, and having some of these awards being given to some of the vendors, and moving that time frame so that we can have Mount Pleasant and Silver Creek High School also benefit from these community Wi-Fi programs, as well as making sure that we coordinate with our Eastside Union High School District and partner with some of the elementary districts, and connect them as well, so that they learn about this community Wi-Fi and have that same benefit. As well as providing a report to the Neighborhood Services and Education Committee on an annual basis with a robust strategy to ensure families are aware. And so that really is it. I know that the work is just moving along. We just like to do a little bit of a prompt, if you will. And so I'd like to move my memo.
Second.
Thank you.
All right, it's been moved and seconded, and
I've had a hand up. I could.
Go ahead, Mayor.
Thank you. I was under the impression we were just pulling items off of consent at this point. Is that right?
Yes, we were, but Councilmember Reyes went ahead, and I called on her and she made the motion. So
okay, I just want to make a brief statement on item 2.8. If we're actually on 2.10, I'm happy to speak to it. If we'll be coming back to it, I'm happy to wait.
Mayor, go ahead and speak to it now.
Great. I actually just saw this memo as Councilmember Reyes was speaking, and she brought my attention to it. Certainly, I know we want to move as quickly as possible. I also know that there had been some concern expressed to me about whether or not this is the best technology that we want to continue expanding. And I know that there was going to, at least in my conversations with our team, there's going to be some conversation about whether we wanted to, on future areas, focus on perhaps a cellular approach rather than a Wi-Fi approach. And I just want to know if we move forward full speed ahead on this, does that preclude us from being able to take a look and see whether or not this is really the best path forward?
Staff, do we have anyone who's available to Jill? If you could respond to the mayor's question, that'd be greatly appreciated.
Yes, good afternoon, members of council. Mr. Mayor, Jill Bourne, City Librarian. I read the recommendations in the memo from Councilmember Reyes as completing the work that the council has already committed to in implementing the community Wi-Fi program with the Eastside Union High School District. There is also mention of elevating an evaluation phase, which I think speaks to the mayor's question that we did want to complete our commitment to the Eastside Wi-Fi project, but then do a robust evaluation to understand whether ongoing financial commitments and expenditures to upkeep and enhance that network would be the best approach, or whether there are other approaches that we could identify with our local telecommunications partners and others.
Okay, so as I think I hear you speaking, Jill, Councilmember Rence's memorandum is consistent with the staff's approach, or at least what you believe you had direction from the council on. We can still do the evaluation we need to do to make sure we're delivering the best approach with the best technology.
Yeah, that's my belief, and also that any future commitments to this network or others would require council action and consideration. So we would have to come back for those. So it is just fulfilling that commitment that the council has made.
Okay, great. Thank you. Happy to support it. Thank you.
Thank you. And I don't see any other hands raised or questions on that item. So Tony, do we have any members of the public who'd like to speak on item 2.10?
Hi, just a reminder, this is item 2.10, not consent counter as a whole. Lorena Chavez.
Hi, my name is Lorena Chavez, Vice President at Eastside Union High School District Board Member. I just want to say thank you to the mayor for starting this partnership with Eastside council members that have been very supportive of this project leading up to today. This has been an amazing partnership. Administration, really appreciate you all making this a priority. And I'm making this comment to ask that we please pass this memo. Please continue moving this. We've made such huge headway these past few years as our community endures this pandemic. And it has been really huge in supporting not just our students, but our community as a whole. So again, please continue moving this project as quickly as possible, as it's something really important for our families and our community as a whole. Thank you.
Blair Beekman.
Hi, Blair Beekman here. Thanks a lot for this item. I guess, a reminder to try to act and work and talk and live lightly. A reminder that in the importance of these, digital inclusion and bridging the digital divide issues, the importance of open public policy practices, accountability. Those are really important concepts for the future of bridging the digital divide. And I'd love to say the term, these are concepts that need to learn to work hand in hand in how to build bridge the digital divide and really build our future. And I don't think they're concepts that can be separated in our future. I think they have to be working together. And it's that harmony. That's our community. That's the future of good community practices that brings us together as a community. And so it's a lot that you have to address with these sort of items. I think openness and accountability can bring a peace of mind to the digital divide questions we're having at this time overall. So good luck. Just a reminder once again in what good open public policies and accountability can do for ourselves in this really important work. Thank you.
Call-in user 1.
You are all politics is local, and this is all well and good, but I'm glad people are able to get connected. But what about the people who have to pay really high rates who have lousy internet service like the place I live in? We're always, 1 mile off of, the faster speed internet. We pay a lot of money every month, and it's not that good. And if you guys have the power to be able to give it away for free or very limited amount of money, I think that maybe when you're talking to these people at these major telecom companies, that you might chime in that the people who are high rate payers are getting the shaft. I know you're going to say, well, this is the state, or you're going to like push it off onto another state or county or federal. You're going to make an excuse like you people always do. But next time you're in there, start speaking for caller user 1 a little bit. When you're speaking to these telecom people, say, hey, you know what? We got residents who their internet sucks, okay, and they're paying a lot of money for it. So is there something you guys can do to improve the service? And that also goes with our utilities too, which are garbage here. Always have been. So if you have the power to give it away, you have the power to speak up for the people who are paying indirectly to give it away for free, right? There's a lot of things on the bill that you have to pay that are for things like this. So nice, right? It's not free, by the way. When you're giving away something for free, keep in mind, every single one of you, somebody's paying for it. There's no such thing as free because somebody has to pay for it. But you never talk about that. You ever talk about the people who pay for all these things? No.
Jill Borders.
Hi, thank you. I just wanted to comment that I do hope that, like the mayor mentioned, that we build in some future sort of, I don't know, parameters around what we're going to do if we find a much faster and cheaper alternative. Technology changes so quickly. I ran into somebody at a farmer's market, a business called Sale Internet, and he was making it sound like he could have Andrew Hill's, internet hooked up right away. I mean, just boom. Now, I know there's a lot more to it, and this has been worked on for a long time, but I do want to make sure that since it's taxpayer dollars that we're using, that we're doing all we can to make sure that we're getting the fastest, the best, the safest, and of course, cheapest alternative there is. So if, like the mayor mentioned, the future looks different, how are we going to make sure that we build in those options and not kind of force ourselves into a situation that's going to be very, very expensive from here on out? Thank you.
Back to the council.
Thank you. Tony, can I have a roll call, please?
Jimenez,
Yes.
Peralez,
Yes.
Cohen,
Aye.
Carrasco,
Aye.
Davis,
Yes.
Esparza,
Yes.
Arenas,
Yes.
Foley,
Aye.
Mahan,
Aye.
Jones,
Aye.
Ricardo.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, so we're going to go back to what the mayor so subtly highlighted that I should have just been pulling items off of the consent item. So I have item 2.9 for Councilmember Esparza. Do we have any other items on consent that my colleagues would like to pull?
The mayor pulled 2.8. Did I hear that correctly?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay. 2.8. And are there any others? All right. Tony, can we take public comments for the remainder of the consent calendar, please?
Okay, so this is public comment on the full consent calendar, excluding items 2.8 and 9. Blair Beekman.
Hi, so you're taking public comment on the Diridon Station Integrated Concept Plan right now? Or, I mean, 2.11, I guess that falls under, yeah, I'll just go. To talk about items 2.9, 11, and 12 are all connected to the future of the Diridon Station, planning for the future of high-speed rail, community energy resources, and development of automatic vehicle technology. It was reported at the VTA Board of Directors April meeting a few weeks ago that the city of San Jose is well planning for the future of the CHSR to enter into San Jose. But yet they are not quite yet fully connecting their project ideas and plans to other local governments and everyday community of the South Bay and the Bay Area. As the South Bay has wisely learned to ask for help from the regional MTC Transit Agency and how to better understand the CHR throughout the Bay Area. And at this time, as I have offered a continual importance of open public policies that can help along this sort of community process, a reminder that the CHSR is a project that can actually be open, helpful, and inclusive to many parts of the future of the Bay Area, not just San Jose. It could be an important reminder and lesson to ourselves how this can be an open subject matter for all parts of the Bay Area, and that many parts of the Bay can have a future part of the CHSR logistical and economic pie. And that we can begin to better work to not have to be so selfish, possessive, and secretive about an eventual future CHR arrival here in the Bay Area. With this said, thank you that City of San Jose government and staff are starting to make it more clear in public meetings about what to more honestly expect in the timeline of planning for the future of arrival in the San Jose and the Bay Area. I feel this is a part of the good ways to practice ideas of clarity and accountability for all parts of the community, as this project may be, parts of it may be a few more decades.
Call-in user 1.
I think this city, county, state, federal government is going to have to think long and hard about this whole new office space and retail and public transit. To where? To what? Who shops retail like they used to anymore? Who's going into the office? They're already looking at 100%, if not half the time, working from home, and all of a sudden you're going to build this magical, mystical village. I mean, I can't wait to see the unicorns running around for this Diridon station to go where? On the slowest train in the world? I mean, they've been talking about this electric fast train. I mean, when it finally arrives, I'll believe it. But this city or the transit area needs to be modernized, and it's not. I mean, look no further than San Francisco, where they still have those electric Muni eyesores. Come on. You're going to have a fast train going between San Jose and San Francisco. I think it'll never happen because it's been so much talk for like 20 years. You can't build it in 20 years. You'll never build it. So I think the Diridon Station area and the new campus is going to be a bust. Remember who told you? The person that everybody hates the most down there at City Hall. Me. Remember who told you? Just look at your downtown, look around, and then look at your whole dreams you have for this transit. It's not going to happen. You know, there was supposed to be a mass transit hub where the Elks Lodge is on Alma. That's when I was a child back in the 70s. The Elks Lodge was going to sell the property to the county or the state. I used to know because my grandfather was an Elk member and sat on the board and was talking about this, new transit hub they were supposed to have. That was the 1970s. What is it now? It's still the rundown, dumpy Elks Lodge, isn't it? Right?
Brian Darby.
Thank you. I just wanted to add, who's ever doing the comments, not comments, but the calendars now and the agendas, I don't know if you've changed the font. It's so much easier to read. And I just wanted to say thank you. Have a good day.
Back to the council.
Okay. Can I get a motion for the?
So moved. Second.
All right. I don't see any hands raised or anybody wants to speak on it. So Tony, roll call.
Jimenez.
Yes.
Morales.
Yes.
Aye.
Roscoe.
Aye.
Davis.
Yes.
Esparza.
Yes.
Arenas.
Yes.
Foley.
Aye.
Mahan.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
Ricardo.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, item 2.9, Councilmember Esparza.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Is there someone here that can answer questions on this?
Lori's available.
Okay.
I think she might be on Zoom.
Is she online?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. Sounds good. Oh, there, I see her now. Okay. So I had a question on this item. What specific steps is city staff going to take in working with the developer on developing a city electric utility?
Thank you, Councilmember, for the question. So right now we are in the analysis stage. So we are working on a financial pro forma as well as a draft agreement and draft rules and regulations that, if we're successful and in agreement with the developer, will come to council either in the fall or early next year.
And so the 1 million and this additional 300,000 is for that evaluation?
Right, it's to develop the pro forma, so it pays for both staff and consulting time to develop that pro forma and that analysis, as well as the draft rules and regulations and tariffs. And this is
so does this evaluation include future potential impacts to the general fund?
Yes, and risks and mitigation strategies associated with providing this service.
And does the evaluation include other options, meaning not a city-owned utility?
Yes, if you recall in their agreement, there are 3 options approved by council. One is city-provided electric service, the other is investor-owned utility electric service, and then the third was privately provided electric service.
Okay. Thank you. That's all the questions I have. I'm not going to support this because I do not support a city utility. That's it for me. Thanks.
Thank you.
Tori, do we have any public comments on this item?
Yeah, Jeffrey Buchanan.
Mayor and Council, good afternoon. This is Jeffrey Buchanan on behalf of Working Partnerships USA. There's a lot of big issues facing our city right now. Certainly, we've had a lot of conversations about, what deserves to, take the staff's time going forward. What kinds of risks are we willing to take? Trying to create a municipal grid for a handful of users in a small portion of our city at this time is taking on an enormous amount of financial risk, creating a whole new scope of legal and policy and other needs at a time when there are a tremendous number of issues facing working families in this city, at a time when we've heard again and again from staff that there's not the capacity to, look at things like what's happening to workers who are having their wages stolen. We've heard that there's not time to look at, things like how do we better protect tenants? Why are we continuing to give carte blanche to look at something as complicated and risky as developing a city-owned grid for a very small handful of users when we have viable options working with PG&E that will ensure effective usage of that grid and that will ensure that we have workers who are well compensated and working families being supported. Would encourage the city council and staff to continue to keep all options open, that we give a fair consideration to each of the three directions that council had initially directed, particularly given the disproportionate amount of resource in this request and time that's been spent looking at one option, the city-owned option, the riskiest.
Blair Beekman. Blair, go ahead. Okay, I'm going to move on to call-in user 1.
Wait. Let me get this straight. The city of San Jose is going to have its own power grid. This I've got to see. I mean, this would be probably the most laughable thing in the entire world, is this city trying to generate power. Look, you guys are way behind the time. The city of Santa Clara did a long time ago. The city of San Jose didn't. And just take a look at how terrible our electrical grid is already, and you guys are going to make it better. I don't believe it. It'll never happen. This city is incapable of filling potholes. It's incapable of even wishing people a happy Easter. It's incapable of midnight to 6 shifts in the Southern Division when all the crime happens. But wait a minute. Are you guys going to need this electrical grid for all the speed cameras you think you're going to put up that you lobbied for in the state of California? Hey, when you go to lobby California, we go up to Sacramento again to lobby for things. Why don't you lobby for better utility grid and a better plan for PG&E? No. You guys go up there for speed cameras. Wait a minute. You can't even stop the sideshows that are happening. Right? But you're going, you people down there at City Hall are going to have an electrical grid. Please do it, because I can't wait to watch it fail. I'd like to hear any of you have a rebuttal to that, because you can't do it. You don't have the skills. You guys don't have the knowledge. You have no idea what it takes to run an electrical grid. But please do it. I beg you.
Brian Darby.
Yes, I think we should look into it. I do think you should be really careful, as the other gentleman pointed out, that it is a very complicated issue. And the city's had, if one looked at it, has had a good and bad results. And I don't lay that at anybody's feet. Don't share the other person's opinion on that, and they're very much entitled to it. But PG&E has shown themselves to be untrustworthy. I don't know of any other organization that has pled guilty to several involuntary manslaughter counts, and everybody all the way up to the top just stays in office or stays in the. None of you have done that. I haven't done that. The mayor hasn't done that. Nobody has it. The city has an opportunity to at least make PG&E accountable, because the California Public Utilities Commission, they will not do it. They will not do it. They are incapable of doing that. Thank you.
Claire Beekman.
Hi, I don't know what happened. Hi, thank you for calling me again. In the same way, we've wisely planned out progressive community land trust issues for the future of the Diridon Station Google Village area. I am hopeful that as you are planning an innovative community energy microgrid future for the future of the Diridon Station area, and that I hope in this current safe conservative microgrid structuring for the future of the Diridon Google Village area, I hope PG&E and San Jose City government can also be working that the future of this microgrid, this innovative new electrical grid, can eventually become integrated into a full community energy program resource in the future, and without the involvement of PG&E. And to speak more on the future of the Diridon area, I'm hopeful that the underground airport connector ideas can use ideas of automatic vehicle technology, and that above ground, we can then focus positive work to more centralize the future of light rail. Thanks a lot.
Back to council.
Thank you, Tony. And I see the mayor has his hand raised. Go ahead, Mayor.
Thank you. Just a couple of questions about this to provide some context. Lori, my recollection is probably 3 years ago, the council, and through my budget message and through other actions, authorized staff to move forward with exploring the development of microgrids in our city. Do you want to describe a little bit around the rationale why we think microgrids are really important in the city of San Jose?
Sure, that is correct. We're very supportive of microgrids to provide additional local resiliency in the event of a power shutoff. They can be very helpful in continuing to provide essential services to communities. So it's something we're continuing to work on. And with this specific project, some of the benefits are that, you know, it would allow the developer to install a larger microgrid than would otherwise be possible with the other options.
And some of the particular reasons we had, I know at the time, and I think there's still persistent challenges, as I recall, were concerns around power safety shutoff events that frankly placed a premium on whatever was happening hundreds of miles away from here, but not so much a premium on the well-being of, for example, medically fragile people in our own city who clearly need ongoing supply of electricity, whether that's because they're medical devices, maybe because they're in dialysis, maybe because it's a hospital, perhaps it's a data center, anything that any operation that really relies on very, very reliable electricity is interrupted. And then, as I recall, we also had problems with PG&E infrastructure where transformers were being blown. I recall a lot of tens of thousands of residents in Councilmember Davis's district being without power for some period of time because of failed infrastructure for PG&E. Is all that part of the rationale around why we want to think about how we can have more distributed, more resilient microgrids?
Yeah, that is all correct. So the city has been challenged by the public safety power shutoffs as well as infrastructure failures, both related to the downtown substation and then even local transformers that connect neighborhoods to the distribution grid.
Yeah, and also, I know there's some mention about whether or not we're venturing into becoming a public utility. We already have a public utility for purposes of procurement, don't we?
Correct. We do operate San Jose Clean Energy, which is a community choice aggregation program, right? And we have been in that business for about 4 years now.
And we saw this microgrid in particular as an opportunity where someone else would foot the bill, essentially for us being able to dip our toe in this water, in this case, Google paying more than $1 million, I guess $300,000 in this tranche to pay for staff and whatever else is needed to see how we could set up a microgrid, not just for Google, but as I understand it, for hundreds of homes surrounding it and perhaps 4,000 new homes that will be built, many of those affordable apartments right in downtown West. Is that your understanding?
Yeah, that's correct. This funding allows us to analyze this option for the entire development, not just the buildings occupied by Google. And Google is 100% funding all of the analysis and staff time associated with it.
Okay. I just want the public to be clear about why I'm supporting this. This is really critical for our energy resilience and the reliability of electric power, which is a huge problem, not just today, but will be a growing problem for the next several decades. The solution that PG&E is apparently offering is that they're going to underground 10,000 miles of transmission and distribution lines, which will come at a cost of more than they just finally admitted. I said in the New York Times it would cost more than $30 billion, and they disputed it. Now they're admitting it's going to cost more than $30 billion, and it's probably going to take about half a century at the current rate of undergrounding. So we should not be hanging our hat on PG&E saving the day. We should not be waiting for the PUC to actually do their job. We've been waiting long enough. We need dependable, resilient, reliable power. And microgrids are clearly a pathway to doing so for many communities. We're seeing the value of both distributed generation and distributed storage. And having the ability for Google to really foot the bill on it, what would be a very significant undertaking, is a great opportunity for our city. So I'm supporting going forward. I know PG&E doesn't support it, but I certainly do.
All right, thank you, Mayor. I don't see any other hands or my colleagues wanting to speak, so I'm going to entertain a motion for item 2.9.
So moved.
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. Tony?
Jimenez,
Yes.
Morales,
Yes.
Cohen,
Aye.
Roscoe. Roscoe. Davis,
Yes.
Esparza,
No.
Arenas,
Yes.
Foley,
Aye.
Mahan,
Aye.
Jones,
Aye.
Ricardo,
Sorry,
is that an aye?
yes, sorry about that.
Going back to Roscoe. Okay, motion passes.
Thank you, Mayor. Item 2.8.
Thank you. I just wanted to give a shout out and thank our city manager, Jennifer McGuire, for pushing forward this. I usually don't cheer whenever we have any consultants involved, but I'll make an exception. I think this customer service initiative is really important for our city and for our workforce, and I appreciate the investment and focus on this. So with that, I'm happy to make a motion to support it.
Second.
All right, thank you, Tony. Do we have public comments on this item?
I have no hands up.
Okay, I see Councilmember Morales would like to speak to it.
Just one question. I noticed that we are issuing the contract to all 4 independent contractors or consultants. And so I'm curious if anybody from staff can speak to, I know this is a visioning and standards agreement. And so it's on customer service. And I don't know how 4 different organizations from different states as well are going to be able to work together to complete this initiative. So I'm just curious if somebody from staff can explain that.
Yeah. Dolan Beckel's available. He's helping to run this project for me. Can you help with that, Dolan?
Yeah, I certainly can. Thanks, Jennifer. Thanks, Councilmember Perales. Dolan Beckel, Director of the Office of Civic Innovation. So what we're doing is we're entering into master agreements with all 4 because they were very closely scored. We're then going to issue a service order that aligns with the original scope, but has some clarifications because we actually saw some potential misunderstanding in terms of the scale of what we wanted to do. So we want to make sure that the service order has a few clarifications to the original scope. And then we'll make the decision who we award it to. I agree. I think that it's possible that there might be 1 or 2, but it is not currently our expectation to award it to all 4. we want to, in fairness, give all four of them the opportunity to see the clarifications to scope and make sure that their response is actually aligned with our expectations in terms of the scale of the work. Hopefully that clarifies it.
That was not clear in reading the report or the recommendation. And so do we think that it will be just one likely then that we'll end up with?
We're giving I mean, there's four kind of distinct competencies here. So we're giving ourselves the flexibility. But again, the main thing we saw, council member, is when you see pricing that's very different, it usually means that the city didn't make something clear. So we want to make it very clear the number of interviews that we expect, the scale of the recommendations that we expect. So if for some reason we come back and there's a good reason competency wise to have one company develop the vision, but another to say implement the training, we have the flexibility to do that. In my experience, that won't be the case. We'll pick the best leading bidder from the service order clarification and move forward with that organization. But we do have the flexibility to move forward with all four since they all scored fairly highly. But we want to make sure that, again, that there's a clarification on the scope and the scale and the widgets that we expect. And the pricing showed us there might be some misunderstanding.
Okay, thank you very much. That's it.
Right. Tony?
Jimenez?
Oh, I'm sorry, Councilmember Esparza.
Oh, yeah, I'll be quick. I just wanted to say I agree with the mayor, and I love the idea of having the multi-year plan, and love the idea of short-term, high-priority, quick wins and pilots to get to that long-range plan and be able to do both. Essentially, this is really exciting work. Thank you.
Thank you. That's all the comments from my colleagues. Tony?
Jimenez,
Yes.
Morales,
Yes.
Cohen,
Aye.
Crosco.
Aye.
And I'd also like to say that Crosco voted yes on the last item. Davis,
Yes.
Esparza.
Yes.
Arenas,
Yes.
Foley,
Aye.
Mahan,
Aye.
Jones,
Aye.
Ricardo.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, we're doing item 10.1 land use consent calendar. Tony, do we have any public speakers on this item?
I have no hands up.
I'll move approval.
Second.
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. I don't see any hands raised or names on the board. So Tony?
Jimenez,
Yes.
Morales,
Yes.
Cohen,
Aye.
Crosco,
Aye.
Davis,
Yes.
Esparza,
Yes.
Arenas,
Yes.
Foley,
Aye.
Mahan,
Aye.
Jones,
Aye.
Ricardo.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. On to item 3.1, report of the city manager.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Jones. I do have a report today. As everybody heard during our ceremonial items, this Friday, April 22nd, we celebrate the 52nd year of Earth Day. As a city, we are committed to investing in our planet, which happens to be this year's Earth Day theme. As Vice Mayor Jones said earlier, Climate Smart San Jose is the city's climate action plan that outlines our investments in the planet. It is a community-wide initiative to address climate change and reduce air pollution, save water, and improve quality of life. Over the past year, we have reached several important milestones in advancing the goals of Climate Smart San Jose. They include approving a goal of being carbon neutral by 2030, accelerating the greenhouse gas reduction targets of Climate Smart San Jose, successfully applying to take part in the first ever Communities Local Energy Action Program, a U.S. Department of Energy initiative that will help low-income neighborhoods in San Jose transition to clean energy, installing 33 miles of new bikeways and improving quality of life for residents and providing more options for people to get around the city without their cars. Launching a solar access program funded by the California Public Utilities Commission that offers 100% renewable energy to low-income residents in underserved communities, and adding 2 new renewable energy projects to the grid totaling 287 megawatts that are helping to improve grid reliability. I'm very proud of the city's commitment to our environment and the progress we have made to achieve the goals of Climate Smart San Jose. I'd like to thank our community partners for their continued dedication and support of the city's Climate Smart initiatives. I'd also like to thank and recognize the commendable efforts of several city departments, including our Environmental Services Department, our community energy department, transportation, planning, building and code enforcement, housing, public works, parks, recreation, and neighborhood services, economic development and cultural affairs, and airport. It really does take a village to do this work. So thank you all.
Thank you, Jennifer. Tony, do we have any public comments on this item?
We don't generally take public comments on just an oral report.
Okay. On to item 3.3, City Roadmap, Digital Equity, Approval of Digital Inclusion Grant Awards.
Good afternoon, Honorable Mayor and City Council, members of the public. I'm Jill Bourne, City Librarian. I'm joined today by Abby Scholl, who is the Broadband Manager in the City Manager's Office, by Sunny McPeak, President and CEO of the California Emerging Technology Fund, or CETF. And I think she's on Zoom? Yes, okay. And then Charlene Tatis, who is the San Jose Digital Inclusion Director for CETF. City Council approved an earlier update on February 15th, and we have some exciting, even more updated updates and recommendations for you today. I'm going to start off by turning it over to Abby to begin our presentation on these recommendations for round 3 of the Digital Inclusion Grant Awards.
Thank you, Jill. Good afternoon, Honorable Mayor, City Council, and members of the public. I'm Abby Scholl, Broadband Manager in the City Manager's Office. In 2019, the city began the Digital Inclusion Grant Program with the goal to close the digital divide in San Jose by enabling community-based organizations to connect at least 50,000 unconnected residents with affordable, quality internet access, an appropriate device, and the digital literacy skills to improve quality of life and enable participation in the digital economy. The grant program is now in its 3rd round of implementation. These logos represent the 15 well-established and emerging community-based organizations that are recommended for Round 3 grant awards to enable digital adoptions in language and in culture throughout San Jose. The Round 3 grant cycle starts July 1st, 2022 and runs through June 30, 2023. Each organization will enter into a grant agreement with CETF with the city as a third-party beneficiary. The organizations recommended for grant awards in round 3 are shown on this slide. We are able to recommend over $500,000 in funding for round 3 grant awards because of the generous support of donors that have provided matching funds. In addition, contributions to the Digital Inclusion Fund from investors and donors enabled nearly $1.4 million in grants to schools during the COVID-19 emergency. Donations during the pandemic funded grants to schools, which in turn provided approximately 4,000 computing devices to students for distance learning. In addition, multi-year and ongoing investments from Zoom, Adobe, and ServiceNow make it possible to increase the level of funding for round 3 grants and the number of digital adoptions that can be achieved in round 3. Our sincerest appreciation and huge thanks to each donor shown on the screen. We are tremendously grateful for their support. For round 3, we recommend $752,500 in grants to 15 community-based organizations. 53% of this sum is funded by small cell usage fee revenues into the Digital Inclusion Fund, and 47% is funded by donations. An additional $35,000 in donations is also recommended to be used to compensate round 2 grantees for up to 100 additional adoptions. And lastly, staff recommend an amendment to the city's agreement with CETF to enable 2 one-time payments. $20,000 for CTF's additional grant making to schools during COVID-19, and up to $72,500 to support the city's digital inclusion program assessment, and if needed, transition the program to a new model. I will now hand it over to Charlene.
Wonderful. Thank you, Abby. Thank you, Jill. Good afternoon, Mayor and council members. It's an honor to be back together in person to share a few of our many successes and outcomes achieved in round one. I will now share success stories provided by 3 of our grantee partners. While participating in a program at Sacred Heart Community Service, a mother learned about the Digital Inclusion Partnership. Reluctant at first, the mother challenged herself to participate in digital literacy classes and received a device upon completion of the classes. About a week later, she learned that her 16-year-old son had been detained by Texas Border Patrol. As a result of participating in the digital inclusion program and support from Sacred Heart staff, mother was able to quickly communicate with the immigration services through email and efficiently send supporting documentation on a reliable device and internet connection that ultimately led to the reunification with her son. Today, mother is beyond thankful for the resources and support she received to help bring her family back together. The next story I'll share is a graduate of the Digital Inclusion Program returned to Goodwill of Silicon Valley as a peer mentor, where she helps facilitate digital literacy workshops to her peers. Through the Digital Inclusion Program, she was able to subscribe to an affordable internet plan and receive a laptop to continue her schooling at San Jose City College and be certified as a peer mentor. She recently moved out of the transitional housing unit where she was temporarily living and into her own studio apartment where her hotspot provides access to unlimited data in her new home. Now she shares her experience to help other participants connect to the internet and a device and learn digital skills. The last story I'll share is an older adult with a disabled brother did not have internet service since December 2019. The family had been using a hotspot that was being loaned through the San Jose Public Library for 90 days, but could not extend the loan. Parks, Recreation, and Neighborhood Services staff were able to assist the family with subscribing to a sustainable and affordable internet service at home. This slide here represents some, because there's many more of the community partners that our grantees have partnered with to build partnerships with promotoras, community influencers, other grantees, public and community-based organizations. All of these partnerships have been crucial to reach qualified households and to deliver the 3 components of an adoption. I'd like to thank all of these organizations today for partnering with our grantees to serve our community. This slide also represents the work that grantee partners accomplished in round 1 grant year. Grantee partners contacted over 751,000 residents, surveyed nearly 18,000 households about their digital access needs with regards to internet, devices, and digital literacy training, and achieved 3,215 adoptions. 91% of the total possible adoptions that were allowed in year 1, which is a total of 3,530. The pie chart you see here also represents that the socio-demographics of adopters reflected the city's low-income population. Over 57% of households served are Latinx, and nearly 17% are Vietnamese, and 7.3 Asian, and 4.6 African American. Well over half of the adopters speak a home language other than English. Nearly 10% were age 65 or older, and 12.7% were aged 18 through 29, and the vast majority were aged 30 to 64. The majority of households served, 73.6%, earned less than $40,000 per year, and 67.4% having at least one child in their home. In the next slide, I'd like to also demonstrate the outcomes achieved in round one. Each household was provided with information about internet options available to them to make an informed decision about which home internet connection met their household needs best. As a result, 46.2% of households were provided with a hotspot connection through their child's school to access distance learning at home during the pandemic. 26.1% of households connected to broadband and 8.7% connected to free community Wi-Fi. The remaining 19% connected through hotspot service providers or their smartphone service provider. As you'll also see here, adoptions were geographically aligned with the highest need communities, with the highest number of household adopters residing in East Side neighborhoods, downtown and midtown San Jose. And I will now hand it back over to Jill. Thank you.
Thanks, Charlene. So for the next steps, we will report back to City Council in the fall or early winter quarters to provide a status report on the round 2 outcomes and the status of the round T grants. We'll also provide an update on the program assessment process, which will get underway this month with the goal of completing the assessment by spring of 2023. And an overall update will be brought to the City Council in spring 2023 with round 3 outcomes and a recommendation for the next phase of the city's digital inclusion programs. So there are so many people and organizations to thank for contributing to and supporting this work. I would like to call out a few. We want to thank the round 1 and round 2 grantees for being pioneers for their perseverance, keeping in mind that this program initiated just prior to the beginning of the pandemic. And during the pandemic and recovery, more than 3,500 San Jose residents have become digitally empowered because of their dedication to incorporating digital inclusion into their work and reaching unconnected households. We also want to thank the 17 members of the Digital Inclusion Advisory Board for their time and applying their knowledge, insights, and expertise to guiding the Digital Inclusion Grant Program. I want to thank our many partners and donors without whom this work would not be possible. We want to thank AT&T, Verizon, Mobility on behalf of Sprint, and now merged with T-Mobile for their public-private partnerships on small cells that provide the sustainable revenue stream for the Digital Inclusion Fund. And thank you to the donors who have enabled us to make additional investments during COVID and for the round 3 grants. We look forward to their continued support and hope that many more partners and donors will join you. Staff also wants to especially thank Sunny and Charlene, our implementation partners from CETF, for their hard work and tireless support for the grantees and for the city. We want to thank the Mayor's Office of Technology and Innovation for their leadership and partnership in planning and execution of these services to connect 50,000 unconnected households in San Jose. And finally, I would like to thank Abby Schul and acknowledge her leadership, stepping in from the city manager's office in the middle of the pandemic, becoming an expert and providing amazing leadership and analysis to this program. And with that, we welcome your questions and comments.
Thank you, Jill and team, for that presentation. Tony, do we have public comments on this item?
Yes, we do. Blair Beekman.
Hi, Blair Beekman here. Thanks for this item. I spoke about this already at the consent calendar time, the importance of open public policies and bridging the digital divide. I think that's the sort of thought process that should be working. That's how we just should be thinking in our future. When you think of one thing, you think of the other thing, and it should go hand in hand. So, I mean, you know, as much as Councilperson Carrasco really wants, you know, good summer school lessons to be available for the future of, the internet servicing of the East Side communities and how students on the East Side can learn as well as on the West Side during summer school practices. She made it clear those sort of practices should be really easy to understand, and that should naturally be how we should be thinking at this time. In those same sort of ways, that's really how I think about open public policies and accountability in the future of technology, and how, as important as bridging the digital divide issues are, we really have to be thinking of its openness, its accountability, its fairness to the community. The community has a right to know what is going on with their technology, how it's being placed, and where is all this technology going to go exactly, and what it's going to be doing. That should be accessible, and we shouldn't be afraid of that anymore. And we have been, and I hope we're learning how not to be. And that's just our future. We're not at a future of war anymore. We're at a future to understand peace, sustainability, open democracy, community. I mean, these are really good things. So good luck how you can work on these issues. And to speak about open democracy, the city manager just gave a really good report about the future of green issues and sustainability, yet no public comment was allowed for that subject. I found that pretty surprising. And thank you.
I'm going to move to an in-person speaker. Gina, come on down to the microphone, and then we'll go back to the Zoom speakers.
Good afternoon, Mayor, Councilmember Foley. Nice to see you again. I'm Gina Gates, and I operate San Jose on our fiduciary agent is Luna. So we work on the Digital Inclusion Project, and I just wanted to share some of the things that I feel that have already been said, but I feel really need to stick to that point. And that is CETF has been really wonderful. They are the experts at this, and they've been very, very helpful in helping guide us to understand what needs to be done, but also during the transition of COVID. So I really just want to applaud Charlene and Sunny for this. The next thing I would like to bring to your attention is we were really stuck and we couldn't work on our grants because of COVID. And so there were some heroes that helped me do my job. And one of them was NWO, and that is with Vince Thayer, who was so gracious to me to allow me in April to start to meet with residents at his facility over at the old KLIV station. So that was super cool. And that's how we were able to start to help people. And we didn't start until April. The next thing is we have a wonderful partnership going on with True Connect, which is a cell phone company who's actually now taking part of the ACP, meaning that they are now able to give devices for people who sign up for cell phones and also an Amazon tablet, brand new. So these are the kinds of partnerships that need to be made. And so those two companies, and of course, are promotoras. Oh man, talk about getting stuff done. Luna rocks. So, and a shout out to Cecilio, and who has just been really great, a big advocate. Thank you. Keep supporting digital inclusion.
Soledad. Soledad, go ahead. Okay, I'm going to move on to call-in user 1.
How much more things do we have to give away as taxpayers and ratepayers? I mean, people can get free phones through the federal government. There's all, the libraries have, longer hours. If you need to use the internet, you can go to a library. I realized during the pandemic, it was a disaster. Thanks to, the people who are so nervous about getting a cold. Now 2 years later, I guess we can, take off the face diapers, people, get back into school. It's going to be okay. We can go on airplanes now. Anyway, I digress. Look, the ratepayers are getting ripped off. The service is terrible. The taxes and fees are high. a lot of these taxes and fees are meant to go to people who can't afford it. Well, why am I supposed to pay for everybody else? I didn't vote for that. It just comes on the bill, right? It just comes on the bill. And guess what? Technology costs money. It's not free. Somebody pays for it. I mean, if people can't afford the reduced rates that these companies offer, well, what am I supposed to do about it? What's the taxpayer supposed to do about it? We have to supply everybody with a laptop now. You can go buy one for $200. Go finance one. I mean, that's what you do when you don't have the money. I mean, it happens. But all of a sudden, I'm meant to I'm supposed to feel guilty, or I'm supposed to believe some sob story because someone doesn't have a laptop. Boo-hoo! Not my problem. And it shouldn't be, because what else am I going to have to supply people? Tell me.
Carolina.
¿Y qué sé? ¿Hablo ya? Aló, buenas tardes. Mi nombre es Carolina. Estoy muy contenta y agradecida con Sagrado Corazón.
Wait, hold on. Hold on. We have the interpreter who needs to we need to switch the audio to the interpreter's channel. And then what I also need the speaker to pause to allow the interpreter.
¿Listo? Okay.
So hold on.
Señor, lo siento un momentito. Tenemos que hallar un
Go ahead. Yes, we can hear you now.
Okay.
Ok, mi nombre es Carolina, soy una inmigrante recién llegada de Colombia. En un principio iba a las bibliotecas con el fin de que me prestaran una computadora, ya que no tenía computador en mi casa. Gracias a la organización Sagrado Corazón, pude aplicar a uno de sus programas y ahora estoy viendo las clases a través de mi computadora online. Estoy viendo mis clases en Mission College, estoy estudiando inglés y pues la tengo todo el tiempo a mi disposición. No tengo que estar devolviéndola cada 3 meses o cada 15 días en la biblioteca. Quisiera que este programa se pudiera seguir realizando, ya que somos muchas las personas que no conocíamos de esta gran oportunidad y nos podemos beneficiar del programa. Agradezco a la ciudad porque sí son necesarios estos fondos para toda la población que más lo necesita. Gracias.
Clemente. Clemente, please unmute. Okay, I'm going to move on to the next speaker, Bao from Vivo.
Yes, thank you for the call. On behalf of Vivo, it's an honor for Vivo to be addressed the council in support of the digital inclusion program in the city of San Jose. Being among the agencies who operate within this program in partnership with CETF, Vivo worked with and helped many low-income families in the Vietnamese American communities to be able to get access to the internet at low cost, enabling the school-age children to have access to the internet at low cost, and for the low-income families and seniors to be trained in digital and to get connected to the world, to the outside world, and avoiding isolation. Without the program, these families would not be aware of how to take advantage of the low-cost internet and to be connected and to be communicated. On behalf of Vivo, I would like to thank the city for supporting the program and to thank CETF and especially Ms. Charlene and Ms. Susan Walter of CETF to help in providing for managing the funds and the resource to help with the program. Thank you very much.
Nicholas Lanza.
Hi, everyone. And first, I want to start by saying thank you to the mayor, the city of San Jose, and the Digital Inclusion Fund for inviting me here today. My name is Nick Lanza, and I'm representing the company Revivin, who has a relationship with the Digital Inclusion Fund, a partnership where we work as an e-waste vendor with various businesses that have one of their headquarters located right in the city of San Jose, and we provide vendor service. When we provide that service, it generates secondary funds that a portion of those funds gets sent directly to the San Jose Digital Inclusion Fund, and Revivin matches a portion of those funds. Prior to my work at Revivin, I've been working in low-income schools throughout New York City and in urban areas for almost the past decade. So I understand deeply the impacts that technology can have in the hands of young people, especially those who are experiencing the digital divide growing up in low-income communities. So, you know, in the past 4 months, we've generated a huge amount of funds for the Digital Inclusion Fund. Those funds then go directly to help bridge the digital divide, especially at this time of unprecedented need. I urge you to please continue to provide equitable access to connectivity, devices, and digital literacy to those who need it most. And thank you again.
Soledad? Go ahead and unmute.
Bueno. Buenas tardes.
Okay, hold on just a second.
¿Sí me escuchan? Buenas tardes.
Sí, un minuto, por favor.
Buenas tardes, mi nombre es Soledad Telles y yo soy el líder de aquí del Centro Comunitario del Sagrado Corazón. Soy promotora. Soy también una persona que se benefició con el programa de Digital Inclusion desde que...
Hold on, can you slow down?
Lo siento.
Okay. Me beneficié yo de este programa desde que empezó, en el 2019 que empezó la pandemia. A mi niño le sirvió la computadora para su escuela. También me beneficié del Internet de bajos ingresos y ahorita a estas alturas yo soy promotora para apoyar a la comunidad a que también mi comunidad tenga este servicio como yo lo adquirí. Tengo tres programas de principiante, intermedio y avanzado, que las mamás están tomando talleres gracias a que tienen su computadora por medio de Digital Inclusion para aprender a ser mamás que están involucradas en las escuelas, para abogar por la pérdida de aprendizaje de sus hijos. Mamás que se están convirtiendo en líderes de nuestra comunidad también. Entonces, lo que les pido es que por favor aprueben más presupuestos para que este programa continúe aquí en el Centro Comunitario del Sagrado Corazón, para poder apoyar más a nuestra comunidad y a nuestros niños sobre todo, y para que nosotros como madres tengamos la oportunidad de desarrollar nuestras habilidades, ¿verdad? Y de podernos convertir en grandes líderes para poder lograr crear los cambios que necesitamos. Gracias.
Isabella?
Hi, my name is Isabella Luong, and I am the Senior Research Coordinator at ICANN, one of the grantees of the Digital Inclusion Program. And first off, I just wanted to thank the City of San Jose, the city's Digital Inclusion Program, and CETF for their continued support and funding of ICANN's work in promoting digital inclusion and digital literacy in the Vietnamese community. I just wanted to underline the importance of having a program like this that expands internet access and digital literacy knowledge to those in our community who might not otherwise have the opportunity to gain these knowledge and skills. So here at ICANN, the majority of our clients are Vietnamese monolingual or limited English proficiency. They are refugees or immigrants, seniors, low income, and live in multifamily housing. So given this background, they need a lot more support and tailored guidance in order to meet them where they're at. So in order for ICANN to have this opportunity to provide these skills and these workshops, it means a lot to them, because especially for the retired folks, after spending decades of working, putting kids through school, they finally have this chance now to feed their hunger for knowledge and finally be a part of this digital world that for so long has been strange and unfamiliar to them. So I just wanted to reiterate the impact and the significance it has for our community members. And lastly, if you can imagine the amount of time, effort, and resources for programs that serve an English-speaking population, and perhaps individuals who may have had more exposure or working knowledge of computers, just to think about the additional time, effort, and resources needed to, especially for community-based organizations such as ICANN serving different cultural communities.
Clemente?
Sí, bueno. Bueno, can you hear me?
Go ahead.
No, can you hear me? Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so my name is Clemente Hernandez, and I am one person who benefits from the program Digital Inclusion that is given on the Sagrado Corazón de Jesús here in San Jose. And first of all, yes, I wanted to say thank you to the city, to the mayor, and all the people that makes possible this program for people like us that we need some help. And we really appreciate it. And the fact that we get these devices, it helps us a lot. And it is true. Nobody has to feel guilty for help because we all need some help. So it is good to be a good citizen and help when somebody needs it. But anyways, I wanted to say thank you very much to all the people who provide and help. Thank you very much, and God bless you all.
Back to the council.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Appreciate it. I just wanted to say first a very big thank you to the many folks and partners who have been involved in this effort, and particularly Charlene Tatis and Sunny McPeak for leading our efforts, and everybody on Jill's team, and Grabowski and Abby Scholl and Nopmonko and everyone who's been a part of this effort. All the grantee organizations, of course, all the many community partners for your hard work out in our communities, and the Digital Inclusion Fund Advisory Board, who I know were acknowledged on the slides. I think it's important for us to recognize, although we know there are challenges in how we move forward, and we know there's probably going to need to be some pivoting as we think about the best path forward. We've certainly helped thousands and thousands of our residents already, and I think it's something for all of us to be very proud of. I wanted to raise a couple of questions as I was just thinking through all of this, and I know that some of my own fundraising for this got, I think, somewhat sidetracked by the pandemic and all the fundraising we're doing around the pandemic and immediate needs for families, as well as work we were doing for other initiatives like San Jose Aspires. And I was just thinking about future sources of support, and I was glad to hear from the representative of Reviving, because I think that's been really an unheralded success in this effort. I think we've gotten so far ServiceNow and Adobe, if I'm not mistaken, on board as partners, and I want to thank certainly Stephen and Clay on our team as well for their hard work and efforts to be soliciting companies to participate. And I'm just wondering, in terms of the amount of dollars, I know it's not a huge amount of dollars that we get through the Reviving Partnership, but I think it's been a really great effort. Is there a path there where if we were to really scale that significantly for a lot more companies to participate, I mean, does Reviving have the capacity for us to really scale that 5 to 10x so we could actually generate more dollars for our effort? Can someone give me a sense of what the constraints might be?
The question, Mr. Mayor, whether there's a potential solution for the funding, the future funding need through expanding these partnerships?
Yeah,
so we think so. We think that that's something that we can work on during the assessment phase as well. And you mentioned the Adobe partnership. I think that looking at those solutions to backfill for some potential revenue declines or in the fund, and also to continue to work with some of the very generous donors are two areas that we're looking to grow in the next year.
Okay. I'm happy to be engaged in that effort as we try to broaden the partnership through Revive. And there's certainly organizations like, I think of SVLG and others. I know we've tapped them a little bit, but I don't think nearly enough. This is one of those things that companies can participate in without much sweat off their brow. And it seems like a great way to go if we could really dramatically expand that Revive and partnership. So anyway, just please sign me up and let me know what I can do. Happy to make phone calls. And then secondly, the slides that describe the surveys of our residents, I always find that really important and interesting information about, when people are facing financial barriers, how do they get around them? And if we could go to that slide that describes, or at least maybe it's in the report, that it's got the funnel, all the many funnels, and we did funnels for all our different program areas. I guess they're basically school catchment areas. And then we had one big one that described a whole lot of folks. It was like 780,000 people we reached out to. And my recollection, well, first we had this huge upswing in outreach. It seemed like in Q5, is that right? And
yes, that's correct, Mayor.
How we went from like tens of thousands to hundreds of thousands of people in one quarter?
Yes, in particular, one of our grantee partners in Q5 launched a digital campaign where it was the count of number of folks that were reached via email and other digital platforms to be able to receive the information. So that's why there was a large uptick in that one quarter. And that resulted in a little over 600 households that responded to the survey in that attempt, that we have not only contacted via email and through flyering, but also our interns who are here today, sitting right there with us, have been calling each and every one of those residents that responded to that survey to help them sign up for the Affordable Connectivity Program. So I'd like to thank Rosina, Diana, and Herlinda for their work in calling those residents as a result of that effort.
Awesome. Thank you, super interns. And forgive me, are they students in local schools or?
In fact, Mayor, Herlinda was part of the San Jose Works pilot program for the tech support, and she's a East Side high schooler. And Diana is also a East Side resident, and Rosina is a San Jose state student. So is Diana, but Diana is also a San Jose resident, and Rosina is from Los Angeles area.
Oh, fantastic. Well, thanks to each one of them for their great work. And speaking of their work around connecting people, in terms of the feedback that we got from respondents on pages, I'm looking now at page 13 to that addendum, the appendix. I think it would be like page 32 and all the materials that were in the materials. We see a pie graph that describes, the question is, which of the following options best describes how you currently access the internet in your home? And again, it broke down for different school catchment areas and all that. And then we had all respondents. And that one graph, it looks like almost 90% of our respondents say, hey, we get access through subscribing for a service or using a smartphone data plan. Very small percentage, 5% use community Wi-Fi, and even smaller percentage used a school provided hotspot. And I'm wondering, I would have liked to have seen something that said, hey, a big fraction actually rely on community Wi-Fi because we're spending all these resources to put up this community Wi-Fi program. And is it the case that maybe, is there some geographic bias? Like we went to communities that were outside the Wi-Fi focused area in East San Jose? Or is this really what we got? And overwhelmingly, people are simply choosing connectivity in other ways.
Well, I'll start to answer, and then Charlene can provide some other context about the respondents. I think one thing to keep in mind is that at the time when the surveys are done, the community Wi-Fi program has been in fast implementation mode, but not the majority of the Wi-Fi networks have not been turned on.
Right.
So we're in building mode, right? So I think we would expect to see that increase. And I think that the outreach plan that we've talked about here would assist with that. But Charlene, I think, can provide more context about the respondent.
Thanks, Jill.
Thank you, Jill. To add on to what Jill said, the information we provided here were the residents that were surveyed. And Mayor, you're correct in that, depending on who we reached. And so we reached to everyone in San Jose, and the folks that we surveyed that, were either already accessing public Wi-Fi and needed the additional components of the adoption, the training, and the device, they were provided with that. I know that there was an incredible amount of our grantee partners that provided information to folks living in those neighborhoods about how to access that free community Wi-Fi, because there were residents that just still weren't aware on how to access that. And so that number is a representation of the folks that were surveyed and not a representation of all of the residents living in that area that have access to the free community Wi-Fi.
Got it. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thanks again for all the great work.
Thank you, Councilmember Mahan.
Thanks, Vice Mayor. Thank you for the report and all the great work you're doing to expand digital inclusion and access in our community. And I want to I'll add thanking our sponsors and the community partner grantees who are doing the work on the ground. I had just a couple of questions based on the report. One was that I noticed that a few of the grantees fell pretty far short of their adoption goal, and a couple of them, they'll receive larger grants this time around. And I'm just curious what kinds of conversations we're having with them. What have they learned? What adjustments are they making? Can you just help us better understand why we're confident giving larger grants to some of the groups that missed the target last time?
Yes, definitely. Thank you for the question. As Jill mentioned in the presentation, we launched the Digital Inclusion Partnership on February 28th, just 3 weeks, February 28th of 2020, just 3 weeks before the pandemic. And we worked with each grantee partner to be able to revise their work plan to meet the new demands of the work given the shelter-in-place orders. And in addition to that, as all of us experienced in our different, work positions, there was an incredible amount of staff turnover and leadership. And in particular, a few of those organizations really experienced some leadership changes that just didn't allow for the adoptions to be achieved. And CETF, myself in particular, of course, worked one-on-one with the grantee partners to coach and support them. And some of the organizations, the health organizations in particular, had to shift completely into vaccine clinics and responses that were targeted specifically to the health related, issues with the pandemic. And then our education folks, which is another organization that I think you're probably referring to there, just staff shortages and having to focus on the distance learning and having to make some tough choices on prioritization. But one of our grantee partners in particular, Alam Rock, it was right about in the 5th quarter that their leadership changed, and within 1 quarter, they were able to achieve 397 adoptions and have a list, for lack of a better word, of families who still need digital literacy training that they just weren't able to get to because of the late start due to the challenges that they faced in the 4 quarters prior. So we are confident in that the recommendations we're making today are organizations that have made the shifts necessary to be successful in this round.
Thanks. That's great to hear. Just as a quick follow-up, we noticed that some of the grantees didn't have any mention of the program on their websites or other digital presence. Is that, which is surprising given the COVID restrictions and that we've been restricted from being in person so much over the last 2 years. Does it make sense to formalize or kind of standardize the sort of online or digital component of this program across organizations, or how are you thinking about that piece of it?
I can speak to part of your question, which is that we are working on standardizing and unifying all of the city's digital equity and digital empowerment efforts so that it becomes easier to access. And so that does include the Digital Inclusion Fund as well. But I will let Charlene answer as to any conversations with the grantees about that.
I think that's an excellent idea, Council Member. I will definitely make that a priority in round 3 to ensure that while all of the grantees were also prioritizing, I was prioritizing my workload too. And, you know, I think there's more work that can be done to advertise and promote on communications. I think most of our grantees do, but I'm sure there may be, you know, a small handful of folks that don't. And so I'll make sure that I make that one of my priorities in the coming round 3.
Cool. Sounds good. And then just finally, my last question, what did we learn from the most effective groups? If you could just distill for us the groups that saw the most success, are there any common themes, and are we at all engaged in information sharing across all of these grantees? Are they learning from each other?
Yeah, I'll start off again. I think that's one of the greatest benefits of the program, as we've seen. And I can speak as one of the successful grantees of the first 2 rounds, the libraries program. One of the things that we learned was how much time it actually takes to help our target audience, which are the truly unconnected. And at one point during our grant, we saw that our adoption rates were not going to meet the goal. Because I have a large organization with a mission that is completely aligned with this work, we were able to mobilize almost 3 times as many staff to start getting our adoptions in order. And so one of the things that we've learned is that large organizations were able to do that, with more infrastructure. And I think one of the great things that I've seen in terms of Charlene's work with the grantees is that the direction has remained to keep working with smaller organizations who have a really trusted relationships with our target residents. Because there's still value there, and it was probably a lot harder for them to mobilize all the time that it takes to achieve the adoptions. But I think that's one of the things we share as a community in the Digital Inclusion Fund grantee groups is really sharing that learning, but also sharing resources. So one of the reasons the library is not a grantee this round is that we made the decision that we really could have more impact by supporting the grantees in our partnership with CETF. So making sure that they can get access to the computers that they need for their residents and the online training programs and things like that. So that is my own personal leadership experience with it, but I know Charlene works very closely with the grantees, and there's much more, I'm sure.
Yeah, I could be here all day. No, just a few more things to add to that. We, CETF, along with all of our partners, host community of practice meetings where grantees are facilitators along with me in learning. So there's that peer-to-peer learning opportunities. In fact, Gina Gates with San Jose On in Luna, who spoke earlier, is one of those smaller grantee partners. And as some of the successes that she highlighted in her comments, and many other small organizations that Jill was referring to have really benefited from partnerships and support, the support that the library also plans to continue to provide in round 3. So that's really been key, is the communities of practice, the partnerships. That one slide that I showed with more than 25 logos, those were just some of the partners that we have. And they either, in the ways they partner, is they provide referrals of residents who they know already qualify. So our grantee partners don't need to put all that work on the ground to find more residents, as well as some of our partners, Human IT, for example, and Revivin, who provide devices and some of the organizations that Gina mentioned in her comments, like NOO and another one that she mentioned that I'm just not thinking of right now. And then also our grantees been able to tap into agencies that already provide digital literacy training. And so they do, they develop MOUs where they're able to exchange services and provide all of the components of an adoption through those partnerships.
Great. Well, thanks for all that additional context. And again, really appreciate all the work you're doing. Vice Mayor, do we have a motion yet? Okay, I'll move adoption of the resolution.
Second.
Thank you.
Councilmember Esparza.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. This has been a really exciting and important process. It started, our first CETF event was at the Franklin McKinley office in the evening. And little did we know how important this work was about to be. I mean, it was already important, but it was really going to be life-saving work. And I actually wanted to first thank you and also ask how we were partnering with some of the other similar efforts. And Jill, you mentioned the work that you're doing as part of your work and how we're dovetailing all of this in different ways. And one of the things that came to my mind was in Franklin McKinley, for example, they were offering in-person parent trainings with the students so that folks could learn how to use the iPad, how to use the stuff, how to use the hotspot. And it was really combining, the families maybe don't know that it's CETF or whether it's the city or whether it's the school district, right? But it really is a multitude of programs. How are we continuing those partnerships moving forward?
Thank you, Council Member. I'm very familiar with the work at Franklin McKinley as a fellow Catholic Charities employee for almost 11 years. So great to hear there's amazing work going on there. Catholic Charities is one of our grantee partners in round 3 and does plan on continuing the work through their family resource centers. And we hope this year with the support of the library to be able to continue to support the different partnerships that I've already mentioned, as well as the mayor's commitment to help us support the continued fundraising so that we can also seek additional funds to provide some of the resources that are necessary to be able to support the grantees in being able to achieve the adoptions. So we're very confident that Catholic Charities and Franklin McKinley and all of our grantee partners will also continue their pursuits for partnerships and resources as the pandemic, and even before the pandemic, they've really embraced digital inclusion as one of their agency's top priorities. And so that's been really helpful as well.
Thank you. And I wanted to point something out because it was one of the things that struck me during our rental assistance work. And it was actually really reassuring as the rental assistance was rolled out to see what the numbers were and to see kind of how that correlated to the COVID numbers and to the need. And so I wanted to just acknowledge the work, and that happens with organizations on the ground in neighborhoods that have those relationships. And we can standardize, sort of standardizing on the back end is helpful, but standardizing on the ground may not be helpful because that's where the relationships are, that's where the people are, and that's really where the magic happens, is by working in neighborhoods throughout the city. And so I just wanted to highlight that because when I looked at that in the report, it really jumped out at me, and that shows me that you're working with organizations on the ground. And so I just wanted to commend you on that. It's so important, and thank you. I'll be happy to support the motion.
Thank you. That's the last speaker for my colleagues. So I don't see any other hands raised. So Tony, roll call, please.
Vice Mayor,
Yes.
Vice Mayor, I do have my hand
Oh, I'm
raised.
sorry.
That's
Councilmember
okay.
Reyes.
That's okay.
But
Wonderful. Thank you. And thank you for all the speakers. I know many of the folks who came to talk today have been directly impacted in a very moving way through some of the support and services that have been offered through many of the CTF's grantees. And I'm very, very pleased to see that there is a variety of grantees now that we hadn't seen before. And I'm wondering about how to make the most of the different rounds that we have. I know that the second round are some unspent funds. The third round is some new folks. I think about 15 of them that are new. And I guess I would like to know about the strategy there. I know that we want to spread the love. And so how does that work in terms of kind of recreating some of that work within these organizations, the decentralizing that work? Is that the strategy that you all thought about as you chose up to 15 different grantees?
Thank you, Councilmember. Again, this is Jill Bourne. I'll start the answer. I think that the strategy of the advisory board that voted to distribute the grants in this way was, in fact, to not only reward the larger organizations that had been successful, but to continue that sort of broader partnership model and to seed fund bring in a percentage of newer organizations, but while maintaining those that have had relationships with the fund, and see, if that helps us continue to reach targeted underconnected and unconnected residents. So it really is a broader approach and trying to work with partners who have unique trusted relationships. And I think I'm looking at Charlene to see if she'd like to add anything. There was discussion about limiting the number. So I think that's something that will always come up each round based on the assessments and the success of each grantee. The determination this time was made to bring in some newer grantees and to try to engage as many grantees as possible.
Okay. One of the things that I would love to see is for us to figure out maybe how some of the agencies that are smaller that maybe didn't do so well, right? And we can all understand that when a small agency is trying to survive, the last thing maybe is on their list, if they're just trying to secure funding, is how to carry on with some of their programming. And it just allows people, allows those agencies to pivot. And of course, this pandemic just really shifted the way that we all provide services. I'm wondering how are we supporting some of those folks that just couldn't quite get it there, and what lesson did we learn from those agencies? Because I think it was a good question to figure out who was the most successful, but those smaller agencies are obviously there because we need them, because they represent a certain population, and so how can we support them to continue on?
Oh, thanks for the question. I was just verifying with Charlene. I think that the approach that Charlene has had, and it actually pertains to Councilmember Esparza's question earlier, the CTF team has been excellent at continuing to engage with organizations to help them problem solve and help them be successful. And so I think that the current recommended list includes previous grantees. There were no previous grantees who applied again who are not recommended for award, if that makes sense. So we're continuing to support those grantees who continue to engage with the program. Mm-hmm. And so that's the first part. And then if adjacent to your question is, are there previous grantees who chose not to apply, and whether we could engage with them to learn more about why? Mm-hmm. I believe that Charlene and the team have had some conversations, but that's something we could certainly look into more.
Great. And Sunny, you're on video with me, and I saw that you were also going to contribute something. Did you want to say something?
Well, thank you, Council Member Arenas. I will just underscore what Jill Bourne has said. And the spectrum of the grantees that we've had in rounds 1, 2, and 3 actually reflect both capacity building of small and large, grantees who have, in terms of what works best, integrated their services with digital inclusion or incorporated digital inclusion into their services, small and large, so that they find they have a reach on the ground. As Council Member Esparza said, it is all about being on the ground, in language, in culture, knowing that community. And the mix in round 3 is actually pretty good. It's 10 what we call veteran grantees, some that actually took a pass in round 2. They were just building up to their, what I would call peak performance in a performance-based grant program, decided not to take a round 2 grant in order to prepare for round 3. And then we reached out. Many of your offices helped us distribute information to new grantees who came forward. So we've got 10 and 6 or 10 and 7, a great balance to keep bringing new energy in and teaching each other, so that quarterly learning community or community of practice that Charlene facilitates, where the grantees are helping each other, that begins to make the magic sauce.
Wonderful. I love magic sauce. I love it. And I'm glad that you are all providing that level of support so that we can continue to so that they can continue to serve those that are the most hardest to reach and difficult to serve. Not only because their schedules are limited or their resources are limited, and not because of any other reason. So I would love to see if we could have a little bit of maybe a acknowledgement or outreach for some of the agencies that serve sexual assault or intimate partner violence survivors. As you all know, that there is a text service for those survivors, and a lot of their devices are under control, and so I think it would be wonderful to have a program that that Nextdoor could run itself, or that Community Solutions could run itself, or even the Children's Advocacy Center, that a child could be provided with a device so that they could reach out to an online counselor or a friend and in the time of need. And so I know that we might be serving these children and these folks within some of the agencies that you've already chosen, but I'd love to see some targeted support there. I'm obviously very supportive of this, and we'll be supporting the motion on the floor. Thank you so much for making sure that you've done all that you could to connect our families and our children while we were so very much isolated and separate from one another. So thank you.
All right, thank you. We have a motion on the floor. Tony?
Jimenez,
Yes.
Prowlis,
Yes.
Cohen, Crosco,
Aye.
Davis,
Yes.
Esparza,
Yes.
Arenas,
Yes.
Foley,
Aye.
Mahan,
Aye.
Jones,
Aye.
Liccardo,
Aye.
going back to Cohen.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion passes.
Thank you. Next is item 3.4, renewal of downtown San Jose property-based business improvement district. And we have a presentation on this item.
Yes, thank you, Vice Mayor. John Risso, Director of Transportation. With me today is Jay Guevara, Deputy Director of Public Works, and Tom Borden, the Special Districts Program Manager with Department of Public Works. And yes, we have a brief presentation on the renewal. There we go. Let me give you just a little bit of context before we get going. The city actually has a number of roles we play in the property-based improvement district that we're talking about today. First one is what the council's taking on today, which is approving of the process and the petition and the voting and ultimately the assessments that will go to property owners. Second one is we're a major property owner in downtown within the district. And so we pay our assessment just like every other property owner in downtown. And third, the city is or was a service provider. So what we do is because we do have this property-based improvement district, we actually reimburse the district for the baseline services that we would have been doing if the district wasn't here. So that's the types of roles that the city's actually working on within this district. So we're talking about the renewal of the district. The district has been in place for about 15 years, and the proposal is to renew it for another 10. There's a number of changes that are being proposed. Some of them are the scope of the services that the new property-based improvement district will provide. There's geographic changes. I'm going to go, we'll show you in the next slide. And then there's some of the changes within the assessments themselves. There's no more premium service. Everyone will pay the same rate. And the different rates will also be changing as well. So the current district is going to be expanding a bit in parts of downtown, and I'll give you a look at what that looks like right the next slide. So the pink or the purple areas are the proposed new district boundary areas. So it is going to expand pretty significantly into some of the areas that are seeing some more development, especially on the west side and the north. And I'm going to turn this over now to Tom Borden, who's going to take the rest of the presentation.
Thank you, John. Honorable Mayor and council members, thank you for your time tonight. The district itself currently, as John has pointed out, has been well established, has been well accepted by the downtown and by all the businesses and residents out there. And we've all seen green groundworks and all of the crews that are there and their help. They're currently operating on about $3.8 million a year. The proposal, as John pointed out, was to expand the services equally among the whole district, which would basically increase the overall budget to about 5.2, 5.3 million per year. So that's the shift that they're looking at. That represented basically by our next slide, because as we pointed out, these assessment districts are all placed on the property tax bills, and the individual property owners are the ones that end up paying for that. The rate structure currently was set up with two different zones, proximity based. We're moving towards a single zone so that all services are equally provided, and that would eliminate what was known previously as the basic zone. And with the expansion, we'd be looking at a single premium zone for the entire district and the new expansion areas as well. The end result would be that those people that are already in the premium zone would see almost no change in their rate structure. But obviously, in order to provide that higher level of service to all of the other areas, those properties that were previously in the basic zone would see an increase depending on their use types, as shown here in the table. Everybody would basically end up at that same rate zone from here on out. So it'd be kind of an easier thing to deal with. That's one of the challenges we've had previously, was people had some struggles with the rate structure. This will actually make it quite a bit more simple. And the city itself, its properties are also subject to the same rate schedules. When we move forward with the public hearing, we'll give you more information on what that means financially for the city. We haven't analyzed all of that completely, but we we will present that at the hearing and election. And then that would take us to the schedule. This is the first action. Your next time you'll see it would be June 7th, where we would hold a public hearing. And then right after that public hearing, we'll hold an actual election. The downtown PBID folks have been doing a petition drive to get us to this point. They have represented more than 50% of the private property ownership and supporting this. And as such, we are moving forward. This council action obviously being the resolution of intention and a symbolic acknowledgement of the city signing its petition as well to show its backing, but still maintaining a neutral stance on the whole process. Again, the public hearing would be held June 7th. Ballots and notices will be sent out to the public on or before the 22nd of this week. And so notices and ballots will be out in the mail by the end of this week. We have posted it also as well for publication. And that really gets to the end of what we wanted to present to you, just something quick and simple. And I think John has something he'd like to add.
Nope, just wanted to wrap that up. We're ready for questions. Thanks.
Thank you. We'll now go to public comments.
Blair Beekman.
Blair Beekman here. As this item has been presented by the Department of Transportation Chair, and its memo talks about the works of public works and the use of sidewalks and many things, it's very fair to assume that you'll be using technology practices with this item. You'll be addressing technology issues, and I just wanted to remind that, you put in a ton of new like geofencing technology principles for the ideas of the future of the mobility, transit practices that you'll be developing in our future of San Jose and downtown. There's just a lot of new data collection technology downtown, and it will have surveillance capability. I hope that's that sort of thing we need to be aware of, and that it can be an open process, and that yeah, just the same as always, just ways to make it open and accessible and understandable if the public asks, that you can simply answer. And that's a really important concept I hope we're better understanding and working on and want to be a part of. It is with that, with things like ALPR readers in parking lots, that, the San Jose, what is it? I can't think of its name, the Convention Commission Group, whatever they are, when they, get those ALPR reports, and if they know how to pass along that sort of information, that we're trying to do open practices with this sort of technology, that's how we'll bring people to downtown better, I feel, rather than keeping it all closed and secretive. And so good luck in this work. Thank you.
Back to council.
Thank you, Councilmember Perales.
Yeah, thank you very much. I just want to say thank you to Scott C. up here and the Downtown Association for their work on getting the signatures on this. I did have a question, but it was more in regards to the process, so I'll take it offline. But I'll make a motion to approve. Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded. Mayor?
Thank you. I'm an emphatic supporter, and I also want to echo Councilmember Peralez's thanks for Scott and his leadership to Downtown Association. I know he's retiring soon, but this is one of the many great legacies of Scott Neese and his work with the Downtown Association. And I can remember when we launched this thing way back in, I think, roughly 2008. And it was a perilous path to actually get support from, then, as they always are, strapped downtown businesses and, property owners who are struggling themselves to make their businesses be able to survive. At the same time, they're essentially taxing themselves to pay for these services. And I've always been impressed by how first our downtown community steps up in these challenging times, and how Downtown Association has helped to motivate folks to really pushing it in a really positive direction. And there's a lot that's happening with this PBID that's really positive, not just the cleaning and beautifying, but also the outreach help with the unhoused. And so I'm just very grateful. I do have one important question, and I can take this offline. I have a feeling this might have been what Councilmember Prowse was contemplating. It seems as though Public Works has been, at least what I'm hearing third hand, is that there had been some suggestion that they could not count as voters the owners of publicly owned parcels, namely the city, and VTA and others, even though obviously publicly owned parcels are assessed. And so the public pays the fee that's appropriate for that parcel. And I can remember when we launched this thing way back in 2008, that was actually an important feature, was that we thought the city and the RDA would be big sources of votes that help get this over the goal line. The good news is the Downtown Association has managed to get a majority of private owners in any case. So I guess it's not particularly relevant in this circumstance, but I'm really concerned if the city is changing its interpretation of what the proper threshold is. I know there are lots of parts of the city. We think about the Alameda that tried not too long ago, and Lincoln Avenue and others that may be very interested in forming a PBID that would be precluded if we use this new approach or this new interpretation of what the proper threshold is to have a majority vote, or what the right definition is, I should say. So I don't know if either Nora or anybody staff want to comment, but I would just ask if that could be something that we could direct our attention towards, so we don't create unnecessary barriers to other parts of our city that want to form PBIDs.
Thank you,
Hi,
Mayor. Deputy Director. Oh, go ahead, Nora.
No, go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Deputy Director Jay Guevara, Public Works.
Hey,
Thank
Jay.
you, Mayor, for the question. I'd like to clarify a couple of things with this concept of the baseline threshold. It is a best practice in the industry of establishing the various forms of special districts that the city maintain, as Tom mentioned earlier, and the different roles that John Ristow began our presentation with. The city's wearing different hats. So one hat is our role in Public Works as the administrator of special districts, to ensure that we are following all the processes, checking off the lists, and making sure that's transparent to the public. The other hat, as you pointed out, is we have a responsibility in terms of real estate ownership. And it's always a best practice in the industry. And it is not a legally a requirement, but a best practice to ensure our neutrality by not putting our thumb on the scale, to ensure that the baseline minimum of a simple majority is established through the organizing, through the public outreach across the PBID. So there's that minimum baseline threshold established before the city can take its symbolic role as we are proposing today, and in preparation for the public hearing. So those are the reasonings. It's common throughout the state of California with different PBIDs or bids. And that is why it's been a longstanding best practice.
Okay, I appreciate that, Jay. But it wasn't our practice in 2008, right? Or 7, when we first did this.
I, not having been at the city, but having participated in PBIDs and other agencies, I believe it has been, and we've been consistent on that since the original downtown PBID. As a best practice.
Maybe we could take this offline, because my recollection is starkly different on that one, and I appreciate you weren't here, so I don't. no one can blame you or anybody for not knowing. I just I'm a little concerned if we're creating a higher barrier than necessary, particularly given how important this kind of tool is for, or can be for, neighborhood business districts or downtown districts like this. So perhaps is there an opportunity when, I'm open to any suggestions from Nancy or Nora about when we might revisit that question?
Mayor, we're happy to convene a meeting with Jay and Nancy and anybody else and talk through any of the legal issues. That's something we can readily do.
Okay, wonderful. All right, well, thank you very much.
Thank you. Councilmember Foley?
Thank you. I'm happy to support the motion, but I just have a couple of questions. And one has to do with the billing. Yeah, I didn't hear this, but you might have said it. Is this added to the property tax bill? And what is your average residential property owner going to see added to their bill?
Sorry, council member, we don't have that actually readily available at this point.
Okay, so maybe you can provide that for me later.
Absolutely.
And then I did have a little bit of a confusion in the presentation. It said that the calculation was based on lot size plus building. Is that accurate? So I have a 6,000 square foot lot and my house is 1,000 square feet. So I'm paying the fee based on 7,000 square feet.
That's correct. It is both lot and building square foot for vacant properties, such that if they had no development, they would still pay a base assessment. And then for every building square foot, you also pay that same rate on your building as well. It's
So
all
when
based on the benefit analysis that was done by a consultant that shows that there's a direct correlation.
Okay, so when you say vacant property, you don't mean vacant property, you mean bare land. Bare land versus vacant property to me is a unit that doesn't have anyone occupying it. Got it. I mean,
very well.
Okay. Then thank you. I appreciate that clarification. I assume that's historically how it's always been done.
That's correct. The district
Okay.
has always been set up in such a way.
Okay. And then one thing that we all know, the downtown, it needs revitalization, and we want to revitalize it as much as possible. It's missing a grocery store. Safeway closed, Zanotto's isn't around. Is the business district involved, the downtown association involved in trying to bring in a grocery store?
John Risto, I don't know that we could answer the specifics of that, but part of what
I'll
the
have a meeting
PBID
with Scott.
maybe
I'll
Scott
call
could,
Scott.
but
He's
part
probably
of
gonna-
the purpose of the PBID is also to do some business outreach and
Okay.
and marketing and development of all that, but I couldn't answer a specific.
Okay, that's great. I can take this offline too. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilmember Perales.
Yeah, just wanted to mention the issue the mayor brought up was the issue that I was asking to take offline. So I would just like to join that conversation, obviously with the mayor and see if we can get to the bottom of that, because I have a different understanding of it as well. So, and then Scott had mentioned via text just now that the average condo owner is $200 a year.
Thank you so much.
All right. If that's it, we have a motion. Tony?
Jimenez,
Yes.
Perales,
Yes.
Cohen,
Aye.
Carrasco. Aye. Davis,
Yes.
Esparza.
Yes.
Arenas,
Yes.
Foley.
Aye.
Mahan.
Aye.
Jones,
Aye.
Ricardo.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion passes.
Next is item 3.5, boards and commissions appointment.
Oh, hi. Yes, this is the interview for Thomas Cochran, who's interviewing for the Civil Service Commission. He is joining us by Zoom, and he should be able to share his video at this time. And I see he's already unmuted.
Yes, welcome, Mr. Cochran.
Thank you.
Thank you for your desire to serve. And if you can just tell us a little bit about yourself and why you want to be on this board.
On the Civil Service Commission?
On the commission, yes.
Yeah, I'm interested in the civil. Well, this is Tom Cochran. Some of you may know me. I've volunteered before. I've been the chair of the Salary Setting Commission. I did 8 years there. and I haven't done anything for a while and kind of just got out of volunteering. But this is something I'm interested in. It's the group of 5 members who oversee I guess, the hiring, firing, and disciplinary policies and procedures of the city, and watching taxpayer dollars. I'm still working. I work full time for Bank of the West as an investment advisor. Been there for 30 years, and I thought this would be something I could do for the city and use some of my time up that I've got a lot of. And I'm interested in the whole process.
Thank you for that. I'm looking to see if my colleagues have any questions or Mayor? You're on mute.
Rookie move there. Thanks. I want to thank Mr. Cochran for his past service of 8 years to the city. Grateful for that. And just a very straightforward question about the rules that the commission would be applying. You know, there'll be times when you'll be thinking about the rules that you're applying, whether the outcome is the right outcome in your view, based on what you think ought to happen, based on your views of.
Oh, I hear you. I hear what you're saying. I hear what you're saying. I hear what you're saying, Mayor. I think but we as it was before in the Salary Setting Commission, you take your oath, you follow the federal, state, and local laws, regardless of whether you like them or not. It's a process, really, and so we were watching out for taxpayer dollars, and so yeah, I hear you, but no, I'm going to follow the state. If I do make the cut, I will follow the federal, state, and local laws, regardless of any beliefs.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Mayor.
Thank you. I don't see any other hands raised or names on the board.
Move to appoint Mr.
Second.
Cochran.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. Tony, do we have any members of the public who'd like to speak on this item?
I have no hands up.
Okay. Tony?
Jimenez,
Yes.
Morales,
Yes.
Cohen,
Aye.
Roscoe,
Aye.
Davis,
Yes.
Esparza, Arenas,
Yes.
Foley,
Aye.
Mahan,
Aye.
Jones,
Aye.
Licardo.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion passes.
Thank you. On to item 8.1, actions related to increasing equitable representation on the Housing and Community Development Commission. And we have a presentation.
Good afternoon, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and City Council. I'm Jackie Morales-Ferrand, and I'm the Director of the Housing Department. I'm joined today by Jin Kim with the Housing Department. This is the first time she's been to a City Council meeting. And Chris Alexander from the City Attorney's Office. One of the reasons we're bringing forward this recommendation to you is because including equitable representation of historically underrepresented communities on our commissions is something that was part of our recommendations under the residential anti-displacement strategy, which you all approved in September of 2020. Also, you did provide us direction in January of 2021 that we should come back and add a lived experience with homelessness designated seat to the Housing and Community Development Commission. And so Jen is going to provide you the details on our recruitment and appointment and how we plan to move forward with the seat. So I'm going to turn it over to Jen.
Thank you. And good afternoon, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and Council. My name is Jin Kim, and I'm here from the Housing Department. So the next few slides will be focusing on the different recommendations, focused on adding the new lived experience designated seat to the commission. And first of all, recruitment and appointment. So should the new seat be approved by City Council, staff will be conducting significant outreach to our partners, lived experience advisory boards, homeless service providers, permanent supportive housing residents, as well as use a variety of different outreach methods to make sure that we can obtain a diverse pool of applicants. And we'll also be modifying the commission application to include questions about experience with homelessness and accessing homeless service programs as well. And staff also recommends that the commissioner to the lived experience seat be nominated by the mayor at this time, as the mayor currently nominates citywide commissioner seats, housing commission seats. At Housing Commission, we had received some feedback from commissioners as well as the public about limiting eligibility to those who had experienced homelessness within the last 3 years. However, when we then went out also throughout our outreach to speak with those who had lived experience, as well as homeless advocates, department staff, the overwhelming majority of the feedback that we had received did not support a strict timeframe as a criterion, and for many reasons, and I can summarize a few. The city should not be creating additional barriers to participation was one. Also, each applicant or each person brings their unique experience to the table, and even if their lived experience had been a little more than 3 years ago, it may be perhaps more important that they have continued to be actively involved in the unhoused community and advocacy as well. We had also received feedback about an alternative nominating body. Staff had initially considered the Council Appointment Advisory Commission, the CAC, as the nominating body. However, CAC has been unable to meet due to a lack of quorum. And also based on the feedback, staff also explored options such as the Destination Home, Lived Experience Advisory Body, or the LEAB, as an independent body for nomination. However, upon discussions internally and with LEAB, staff does not recommend this approach as it would prevent LEAB members from applying for the seat. And it would be similar for other bodies as well, other independent bodies. So next up, resources to reduce barriers to participation. Technology supports. This was one of the areas where we heard a lot of feedback about need. The department is recommending providing a tablet, Wi-Fi hotspot devices if needed, as well as providing any printing or other tech support as requested as well. Onboarding and training. So while some resources are currently being provided by the department, we propose to provide a comprehensive training, additional resources as laid out in the slide. So providing an orientation and onboarding guide, video recordings of prior commission meetings so that commissioners can get really familiar with parliamentary procedures, expected code of conduct, and to understand how the meeting dynamics as well. And then we would also provide other trainings on key policies, ordinances, as well as necessary or as requested. We're also planning to implement a buddy system where the new commissioner would be paired with a buddy current commissioner, and this would be relevant for all new commissioners. And this is really intended to be a space for informal conversations, responding to questions outside of the official meeting as well. And last of all, additional resources. This could include things like space at City Hall for commissioners to attend if the meetings are virtual, accessibility needs, as well as use of plain language at meetings. And next up, So stipends for the lived experience commissioner, we recommend a $200 stipend to help reduce financial barriers to participation, should there be any, by the commissioner appointed to the lived experience seat. This would not necessarily be a direct compensation for time, but a way to support participation and, as mentioned earlier, really reduce some of the barriers that may occur. And this stipend is consistent with some other stipends that other commissions and boards are providing at this time. So throughout the past few months, we had reached out to a number of different stakeholders as listed on this slide, and we will continue to do so once we receive approval from the council in order to recruit for the commission seat. The feedback that we've received to date has been incorporated into our recommendations.
So our next steps will be we will recruit the commissioner for the lived experience seat.
Jackie, your mic is not on. Thanks.
Remember to turn that on. I'm not used to this work anymore. So it's our on-site unmute version here. So our next steps are we plan to recruit the commissioner for the lived experience seat and to ensure that we have sufficient resources so that the lived experience seat can be prepared, and then hope to return to the council with a nomination. With that, I wanted to thank all the staff that worked on this initiative, including Jen Kim, Kristen Clements, Chris Alexander, our city attorney here, and Neelam Nadu, whose last name I hope I did not butcher, who is a city attorney with the clerk's office, who provided a lot of support for this as well. And with that, that concludes our presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Jackie. We'll now go to public comments.
Claire Beekman.
Hi, Blair Beekman here. I was hoping I would be kind of in the back. Hopefully more people will speak on this item today. Yeah, I think just first of all, to really note, it wasn't noted by the public, but you, item 10.1 was approved today, and that's the future of urban village housing and different zoning ideas that can go with the future of urban village housing. I think it was a big item that was passed today, and I think it's a part of your streamlining process. It should be noted as the public right now. I mean, it really could be, you know, put into all the futures of green sustainability ideas, the city manager's
Blair,
report.
how does that relate to this item?
Okay, just to quickly conclude, just a reminder of the importance of you know, very low and extremely low and mixed income ideas. And I know you guys are thinking about it. Really good luck on how to make that as an open conversation process as possible. And for the future of the urban village process to be really caring about very low and extremely low income. These projects shouldn't just be for, you know, middle income and low income. It should be more than that. And we should talk about affordable housing that way. And I'm really worried that the future of urban villages will be, you know, you'll be getting subsidy money to subsidize low and moderate housing. I'm sorry, this isn't it.
The commission.
Oh, this is a commission thing?
Yes, Housing and Community Development Commission.
Okay, I'm very sorry. I'm not on point here. And thank you for your time.
Thank you. Alex Shore.
Good afternoon, Council. This is Alex Shore speaking personally, not on behalf of any organization for which I work or commission on which I sit. For me as an individual, I know that I have a lot to learn from those who are houseless. I can represent my own views as someone who's a taxpayer or someone who's been a renter, but I've never been homeless. And the value of the perspective of those who have is immeasurable to public decision making. And I know that the folks who sit on the Housing Commission, I listen carefully to them when they talk about their experiences being houseless, just as I would a landlord or a rental provider. So I think it's crucial that we move forward with this agenda item so that we can have more of the perspectives of houseless individuals in our public policy decision making. Too often, so many of us in our community talk about what we think is going on with the homeless community, but we don't have direct experience with it. So I think this is a great effort. I really, really like the stipend that you'll be offering to the lived experience commissioner. I think that is very important and is a step in the right direction on equity. And I also want to support Councilmember Peralez's memo as well. So thanks as well to Jin Kim and the Housing Department staff for spending a lot of time and doing a lot of good community engagement on this item. Very, very supportive of this moving forward today. Thank you so much for considering it.
Caller 4963.
Yeah, hi, Martha O'Connell speaking as an individual. At its February meeting, the Housing Commission unanimously passed a motion that the person filling the new seat should have been homeless within the last 3 years. And I stress that vote was unanimous. We don't always agree on everything. We have divergent views, but all of us felt that the person filling the homeless seat should have been homeless within the last 3 years. Housing categorically advised against this unanimous recommendation, saying that the length and period of homeless experience should not determine eligibility. That is patently absurd. Right now, an attorney, a former city employee, and a person who owns a house and has a rental property would be eligible to fill this seat because they had, quote, lived experience years and years ago. This makes a travesty of the proposed new seat and is a slap in the face to the HCDC, which engaged in lengthy discussion of this issue. Council should vote to accept the recommendation from HCDC that the person filling the new seat should have been homeless within the last 3 years. I'd also like to say that to pay the person filling this seat a monthly stipend of $200 without regard to current financial need is another travesty. And I give a shout out to Roberta Moore, who asks that while you're changing the ordinance, you make the ARO landlord a designated seat. Right now, there is no designated seat on the HCDC. She is filling that position as well as the D10 seat. And as she puts it, it's not right, it's not fair. Thank you.
The caller going by Godzilla.
Hi. I totally agree with Martha about the length of the term limit on the seats, that it should be somebody who's been unhoused in the past 3 years. And I agree with everything she said about the reasoning. I also point that out because there are several people who feel that they represent the people best, and they've been out of the streets for a very long time. And there's people who are in the streets right now as advocates who are doing a fantastic job. So there's like a battle amongst the advocates of, I'm better than you because I've been advocating longer. And putting a term limit on it would actually help give parity to the new advocates, the people who are actually still in the trenches or recently out of the trenches, rather than the people who are like more well-known. And I think that that would be fair. I do not think that the mayor should appoint the person. I think it should be the people who are on the streets and know the advocates better, know the people who are advocating better. Somebody like maybe Gardner Health could have a heavy hand in picking somebody. They are out there all the time. Sacred Heart, the Law Foundation, maybe a group made up of those people, they could decide, not the mayor. I just don't think he likes some of us personally. I think there should actually be 2 seats, one for men and one for women. The disparity between their experiences out on the streets is vastly, vastly different. Men are raped a whole lot less on the street than women. Men are trafficked a lot less than women on the streets. So there should be 2 seats, one for men, one for women. And if there's not, then yes, the first seat should go to a woman. So it should be 1 seat or 2 seats, 1 male, 1 female. Term limit, or it should be 3 years that you've been unhoused.
Polling user 1.
Well, it really should go to who's most qualified. I mean, what if you've been homeless 6 years ago? Does that count you out? I don't know. It shouldn't. Also, $200 stipend. I mean, I'm not one to like want to pay people more money being a taxpayer, but let's just talk about our wonderful city council members and mayor. What are you guys making? What's each city council member make? They're 150 grand a year to work, 2 days a week and go shake hands on another day, maybe read stories to kids, or, go to a deli and order a sandwich, put it on Twitter, whatever they do. Then their staff, they have this big staff of people hiring all their family, friends, and relatives and godchildren. Shouldn't they maybe take some of their staff money and their pay and put it towards a homeless executive, or however you're going to call this individual, or these two people, whatever? All you city council people should shave a little money off and put it towards this person who's going to have a big job to deal with these homeless issues. I'm sorry, the unhoused. Yeah, let's see if any of these city council members will make a commitment to put part of their salary and what money they pay for their staff towards the $200 stipend. It's amazing how cheap white liberals are. It's unbelievable. Unbelievable. You guys should be putting up your money or shutting up. That's what I say. And I'm not even a huge homeless advocate. Thanks.
Back to the council.
Thank you, Councilmember Paulus.
Yeah, thank you very much, staff, for the work and coming back on this, and to the Housing Community Development Commission as well for their input. I have submitted a memo based on experience from when we had the SAG, the Station Area Advisory Group, and I had advocated similarly that we have somebody from our homeless community that serve on that that group. And we learned some lessons through that. And I think that a number of those lessons are being applied here in the recommendation, the buddy system, right? Being able to provide support for an individual that has been unhoused, especially if it's more recently. And one of the things that we learned was that it was important to have an alternate or a backup as well, somebody that could provide support when they weren't able to make it, or if ultimately they had some challenges, rather than potentially going vacant for quite some time. We have alternates ourselves in many roles where we serve on committees and commissions, and I do think that that could be a benefit. That is one recommendation that I would like to add. And then the second would be implementing potentially some similar criteria to other relevant boards and commissions, and I'll leave that to the city manager's office and staff if they wanted to try to kick that around and see where that might be relevant, and maybe feedback from my colleagues if they're interested. The last piece would be I do actually agree with what Martha wrote in and what she spoke to. I think that there could be a happy medium here. I recognize that being very strict with 3 years could exclude somebody, for instance, that has been, homeless 3.5 years ago or 4 years ago, right? If you want to cut it really close. And in my mind, I agree that, we don't want to necessarily be that strict. But at the same time, by eliminating that language, I think we open the door too much. And it is possible that you have somebody that, was homeless 25 years ago and maybe not as relevant. Granted, in this case, and what we have as a direction here, the mayor is in making that initial recommendation. And so clearly, I think, you can put some responsibility in the mayor's hand, right? The person making the recommendation, that they'll use their best judgment on that. And that ultimately the council, as we're approving the ultimate body, right, that we're also going to use some best judgment. And so I wanted to see if there's some soft language rather than make it, definitive that, hey, 3 years is the cutoff, but where we put in language that is giving some guidance, if you will, right, on the appointment, and that could be, short term, something 3 to 5 years, or I don't think it needs to be hard and fast on the actual number of years, but that's giving guidance that would give a preference And that should give direction to, in this case, it would be the mayor, to be looking for somebody that has had that more recent unhoused experience. So I'm happy to hear staff's feedback on that.
The staff does issue a memo responding to different issues as we see in the application. So we can certainly highlight years of experience, and that will be part of the application process. But again, the feedback, frankly, that we heard from more than just the speakers who spoke during public comment was this concern of this, what is the right time?
Mm-hmm.
Is it 3? Is it 5? Is it 7? Especially if some people do come back to be advocates of the entire issue, so they're still very engaged. Ultimately, we want to have a pool of people that potentially the mayor could select from, and we could certainly highlight years of experience as part of that feedback. But I'm hoping that the only sole applicant will not be someone who was homeless 25 years ago.
Yeah, I think that was my only concern, was that I actually was more basing off of my comments off of the commission's discussion, and I think their input on that and why they felt that was important. And I would agree with that, right? That trying to eliminate the potential that you only get applicants and you just don't feel very comfortable with any of them, but they meet the qualifications, right? That would be the challenge. And so I think that having some sort of guidance in the appointment would be helpful. Again, I don't want it to be strict on specifically 3 years. I agree with that it shouldn't be that strict.
The one thing I would also add is we don't always get appointments when people apply. So that's happened when people have applied to council offices and the council office has declined appointing anyone. And it's happened with the mayor's office. And when they have someone has applied and they've declined the applicant, declined the applicant. So I'm hoping it's not just number of years that makes the decision, but is the response that the person puts in their application, that we're able to better understand what is their experience, how do they use that experience to inform what they would potentially be doing in the committee. And so I really think the narrative is one of the most important pieces on how they can talk about what they would do.
Yeah, thank you. And then any input on my other recommendations? I imagine the second one maybe not too controversial, but the first one on having an alternate, or essentially appointing 2 people, right? But appointing one as an alternate or backup.
Yes, we could certainly do that. I think we would like some guidance on the expectation of the only thing we hadn't thought through is the stipend. Would they only receive the stipend if they actually attended the meeting, but they had to prepare and we didn't know if they were going to attend? If that would be a concern. And how much that stipend would be. Would it be equal to if they didn't attend? You can tell us what we can figure that out, and we're happy to figure that out. But if you had any thoughts on that.
Yeah, I don't imagine the stipend is going to be too hefty to where, we should hold that hostage and say, well, so I think I would be more lenient on that and say, look, if the person is appointed, but as an alternate and they're attending, they should be getting the same stipend. I think that it's more about, it's almost like that buddy system that you are adding in. But this is just, I think, taking in the reality that this particular appointee is likely going to need a little bit more assistance. And this is something that we lean on regularly as council members, that at times we need an alternate to step in for us because of whatever's going on. And I just think that might be a benefit. We saw that again with the SAG, because we did end up having a vacancy for quite some time, right, in the SAG, because the individual that we had appointed ultimately, actually, I think how recent they had been unhoused, or how recently they had been housed, I would say, did propose a challenge because they just had so much other things they were going on, and the SAG proved to be a very contentious, set of meetings, and became overwhelming. And ultimately, I think having some support in that, right, even an alternate that you could trade off with, right, that ended up being something that we had discussed as well, as that, well, maybe you're not having to attend all the time, and it's kind of a split or shared responsibility. So that was my thought with having that alternate.
That makes sense. And as for your second recommendation, I will turn it over to Lee from the city manager's office.
Thank you, Jackie. Just wanted to remind mayor and the council during the special meeting last week on charter review commission recommendations that we did commit to coming forward through the budget process with the manager's budget addendum to provide some criteria around how we would support our board and commissioners, looking at income level and those that do need support to participate for the betterment of those recommendations. So that is forthcoming in the budget process, and we're definitely incorporating those thoughts.
Okay, thank you. And thanks for the response, Jackie. And with that, then I will move approval of the staff recommendation, including my memo.
Second.
All right, Councilmember Davis.
Thank you. I also want to thank the Housing Department for bringing this to us. I didn't see in the memo, so the total number of commissioners now is 13. I assume that means there's one for each district. What are the other 3 now?
They're designated seats. So there's a designated seat for the mobile home slot, and there's a designated seat for the mobile home resident. And then a rent stabilization and a owner and tenant.
Okay, so there is an ARO rental provider seat?
There's already a seat that's designated for that. So if
But
someone,
that would be 14 then. If there's 10, you named 4 seats.
if I could butt in on that, the apartment rent ordinance landlord seat is also tied to district seat. So we have criteria like low income representation. So sometimes I'll give you guys a set of applications and say, well, we really need a low income person. You have to choose between these 2 people because they're the only ones that meet that criteria. The HCDC commission's super complicated on how it gets appointed. So there's 1 per district, then the mobile home landlord, mobile home owner, and then we also have low income as part of the districts, and we have apartment rent ordinance that's part of the districts. So that's why you're hearing like, it sounds like there's 20 seats, but there's just a lot of overlap. So like, for instance, Roberta Moore she holds 2 seats, basically, a District 10 seat and apartment rent ordinance landlord.
Okay.
So yeah, it's complicated. This is the most complicated commission we have.
Okay, how do we get to 13 then?
So it's the 11 or 10 districts plus a citywide plus 2 mobile home, a resident and a landlord. It was the mayor's appointment that we missed.
Okay,
so it's
the
a mayor's
2
appointment, and then there are seats that are held for the mobile home owner and the mobile home resident.
Okay, so the 2 ARO seats are within the district.
Yes.
Both of them are. So they're not separate.
Yeah, I'm just scrolling through I pulled up the roster.
Okay. Okay, thank you. I just wanted to make sure I understood. And there was a request at least to change the wording for ARO landlord to ARO rental provider. I know that's landlord is an outdated term. So I would just ask if the maker of the motion would be willing to add that change just from landlord to rental provider for that designated seat. It's not a separate seat as Tony just mentioned, just rental provider.
Yeah, I'm not totally opposed to that. I don't know if there's any legal justification or anything more in depth about it. I know that landlord also is kind of commonly accepted, but I recognize that it has stirred more of a controversy in regards to I guess the way that it sounds. And so I don't know if you have any.
In the actual ordinance, it's referred to as the owner or manager. It's not referred to as a landlord.
Okay, great.
Okay.
So we don't need to
So
make
it doesn't
that
need to change then.
Correct.
Maybe just in our own type of it, we can use
Correct. We could
that wording.
stop calling them the landlord. We're
All right.
happy to make sure that we are using the correct language. So we'll make note of that.
Thank you. And I appreciate going through this because I didn't remember who was what and which seats were which. And I'd just like to chime in. I think it's important that the stipend should only be given when they attend, whether it's the actual appointee or the alternate or both, if they happen to both attend the meeting. I think it's important that the stipend only be given for attendance at the meetings. And then I just also, I know this wasn't part of the motion, but I'd just like to encourage hopefully we do get multiple applicants, and I just want to encourage the mayor, who's going to be the first person to appoint, to really appoint a woman. There is a different lived experience from the conversations that I've had with recently housed individuals about being on the streets between women and men. And I would also like to add that I think the unhoused experience should be local to San Jose, if at all possible, as opposed to elsewhere in Santa Clara County or elsewhere in the state or the country. I think it's important to know what the experience is here specifically. And then there was a question that I didn't see on here, but I just want to make sure this seat will have a term limit just as every other commission seat has, right? So you get two terms. I can't even remember how long they are.
They have 2 4-year terms. So
Oh.
yes, it will be limited as well.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Foley.
Great, and thank you for the presentation, and welcome, Jen, to the Housing Department. I really am glad to see that we're moving forward with this appointment and this recommendation, and that Lee, thanks for reminding us that you're going to come back to us with an overall bigger scope on stipends for other commissioners and that sort of thing, and guidance on that. I appreciate that, because we have commissioners who donate a lot of time. They could be seniors on fixed incomes. They could be young people on limited income, and we don't want to limit our pool of volunteers based on a means test that they can afford to serve. So if we can expand the stipend, that would be great. But at least giving it to this position, to the unhoused position, makes a lot of sense. Now, I just have a question about the application. Tony, is this the same application that someone would complete for any other commission appointment?
I believe we're going to be adding extra questions. I think that's part of the memo. It was mentioned in the presentation that we would have questions, so we'll revise the application for them.
Okay, but the income question will still be there, where they working and that question, because I am concerned about someone with lived experience not having the need financially for the $200 stipend, yet because they're filling that position, we may be giving them the $200, where someone else on the commission may have a greater financial need, but they're not filling that spot of the unhoused person. So are we going to be able to judge that? I'm sure the mayor will, as he goes through the applications, will take that into consideration, but will that information be in the application as far as their employment?
Employment is one of the standard questions that all commissioners fill out. And then we have the second half is all the special questions.
Okay.
So we'll work with Jackie.
So low income is one of the special questions for this particular commission. We would then like clarification from the council if what you're directing us to do. I think our proposal was we're just giving the stipend. So if you wanted us to do a means test of some sort, then just for clarity, I'd want that as part of the direction.
Okay, so for me, there should be some sort of a means test then, that and I think this was HCDC's concern, that someone who was homeless 20 years ago and is no longer and is earning a decent income, they may qualify because they're serving the unhoused seat and they get the $200 stipend. Whereas someone who's a senior citizen serving on the commission may have a greater financial need based on limited income. They're not going to get the stipend. So I would like to see a means test And I don't know if it's 80% AMI. I really don't have a magic, or a very low income, or I mean, I think I'd kind
Yeah.
of like to hear from you what you recommend.
Actually, no, as I was sitting here thinking about it, my original thought, until I blurted out and said that second thought, was that since the city manager's office is going to look at the whole issue of how we would deal with stipends, I'm wondering if you would feel comfortable with having that kind of broader work done. They decide what the income level is, and then we would just apply that. We'll make the modification when they come forward to this particular seat.
I absolutely agree with that. I think that's a great way of going.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you. And that's the end of my questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Appreciate the input of my colleagues. Agree with sentiments expressed, particularly by Councilmember Davis around prioritizing lived experience here in San Jose, as well as that of women. So absolutely will place that foremost in consideration. I want to also thank Jackie for returning with our recommendation, and thank Council Members Jimenez and Cohen for joining me on the memorandum initially last year and suggesting this. I think this is something I think that's going to really improve our ability to be responsive and effective. I should say, I think it was Robert who really brought this issue to my attention. Robert, his last name I seems to escape me for the moment, but he's been a frequent advocate for unhoused here in the city. And I remember him suggesting this one December, and it prodded me to push forward. So I appreciate very much the suggestion, and look forward to the work we have ahead.
All right. Councilmember Sparza.
Thank you. Thank you, Vice Mayor. A couple of thoughts. So since you're getting input right now, I'll throw mine in. I actually would prefer to open it up to Santa Clara County, and I'll tell you why. We have this conversation, we had it on the countywide homelessness task force, right? And one of the things I heard from other cities is, well, we only want to help our homeless people. We only want to do this. And yet shelters, if someone lives in San Jose, but they were homeless in Sunnyvale, or they lived in a shelter in Sunnyvale, their experience is still valuable. And I think given that our approach is on a countywide system, that we should, I wouldn't want to turn someone away because they still have a knowledge of the shelter system and the different support on caseworkers, on what it is like to get your first place and be stable. And I think that that's important background. And so, I think we should definitely strive to get as San Jose specific as possible, but the system is based countywide, and there are some services that might only be available to them in another city. The other thing on attendance is I saw the 50%, and I supported that, and I'll tell you, and here's why, is because if we are saying we want someone who's been homeless recently, right, that could mean there are all sorts of different reasons why someone's homeless, all that kind of stuff. But one of the things that we know is being homeless, it ages you, right? There are all sorts of health impacts, that there's trauma that's involved. And a lot of the services, a lot of the support groups, some of that work may still be ongoing if they're recently homeless. And so that's why I saw the 50%, I was comfortable with it. I do appreciate the buddy system for a lot of reasons. I think we as council members also offer a lot of support to our commissioners if they have questions for us, or they're a little bit nervous about Robert Rules of Order. I think having a buddy to go through that is helpful. for that support and for that input and attendance and participation on the commission. You know, in terms of recent, you know, I actually agree with Councilmember Peralez. I would like to have some leeway there. And I really liked the idea of having a pool of folks, because to me, that means there's a pool of people that are engaged and we can engage them in multiple ways. One of those ways can be a seat on this commission. And I wanted to also, well, I don't know that I need to ask for an amendment because we're kicking the stipend off to the city man, to the roadmap process. But one of the things, so I'll just bring it up, Lee, this one's for you, which is the HCDC is a commission that has low income and moderate income seats. And to Councilmember Foley's point, we have a lot of folks that are on fixed incomes, a lot of folks that work and are still barely making it, like so many in the Valley. And we really need to, the topic of this is equitable representation. And equitable representation includes not making it a hardship for you to have a voice in the system. And so I'm just going to say it here for when this comes back, that we are able to offer a stipend for low and moderate seats on this commission. And I'll stop there. Thank you.
Thank you. That's it for my colleagues. I don't see any hands raised. So Tony?
Jimenez,
Yes.
Peralez,
Yes.
Cohen,
Aye.
Carrasco,
Aye.
Davis,
Yes.
Esparza,
Yes.
Arenas,
Yes.
Foley,
Aye.
Mahan,
Aye.
Jones,
Aye.
Liccardo.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, next is item 8.2, proposed changes to the spending priorities and percentage allocations, measure E, real property transfer taxes. And this is a continuation from last week. And there will not be public comments on this item because we had public comments last week. So I am looking for hands raised, and I see Mayor, you have your hand raised.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I just wanted to first thank all my colleagues for indulging a deferral to this week, just so we could all be here to vote. I know it's particularly important given the supermajority that's required here. I also appreciate caught up through my team to help me understand some of the input provided before. I wanted, since I'm able to make a motion for the first time, what the heck, I'll make a motion to include the memorandum that several of my colleagues and I signed along with the staff recommendation.
I'll second.
Thank you. Councilmember Ross, I saw you had your name on the board.
I was just going to make the motion.
Okay. Councilmember Esparza.
Well, now the mayor's going to stay home all the time.
I'm telling you.
Thank you. I know we've had a lot of discussions about services and how vital to success services are. And so I wanted to ask the mayor, I support the memo, and I wanted to ask for an amendment that if there's any leftover money in services, that can go to homeless prevention. We don't know that there will be, but at least we're giving direction on where we would like to see it. And homeless prevention has been incredibly successful and has literally prevented thousands of folks from becoming homeless during COVID. And so I just wanted to offer that amendment.
Yeah, I'll adopt that as a friendly amendment.
Thank you.
Yes. That's fine.
All right. No other hands raised. So roll call, please.
I'm just wondering, I just want to check because the allocations are by percentages, right? And so I'm wondering if you would consider instead an alternative language that we allow homeless prevention in that other bucket, because then if we ended up having extra money, we're not messing with those percentages again. We're staying within the Measure E percentage requirements, which is how the ordinance, or which is how it's set up. Would that work?
So Jackie, you're concerned we're mixing buckets and that could get us in trouble.
If we had extra money, then if the activity is not eligible in that last category, then you would not be following the percentage set asides. But if you made it an eligible activity under that last bucket, then we could, we'll end up having to move money around anyway, but at least it'll be eligible under that bucket.
Given the substantial needs I know we have in operations, I'm pretty sure there's not going to be a lot of money extra left over, but I would like to at least put some brackets around it, because I know there's an ocean of need out there in prevention. It could prevent us from doing a lot of other things. And so I guess the seconder I would ask to consider, if we were to simply say that 15% category would have the existing language, perhaps followed by a comma with residual dollars that may be allocated to prevention. Would that be acceptable to the seconder?
If I understand it correctly, so the residual will be within that category, you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm fine with that. I don't know if that hits the spirit of what Councilmember Esparza was asking for, since it was her friendly amendment. So I'll.
Councilmember, this is Jim Shannon, the city's budget director. Can I ask for a clarifying question too? So I think as the city is looking to the 15% category for homeless support, I think the current funding strategy is to accumulate funding over a number of years.
Yeah.
That would then be able to be spent down in the absence of additional other sort of state or federal funding. So I think we need to be clear in the recommendation language that this would be we would look at this over a multi-year period to ensure that we had, because one of the direction that City Council gave us with the approval of the March budget message is to come forward to say, okay, well, if as we build these sites, we have to commit to maintaining them. So as part of our future 5-year forecast, we would have that full cost built into our general fund, and of which this 15% portion of the Measure E would be a critical component. So I wanted to put that caveat. So I think we would probably need some for that strategy to work. We would need some flexibility on the time range by which there could be some surplus funding in that bucket.
Yeah, Jim, you raised good points, as did Jackie. So I guess I'm getting a little bit of buyer's remorse. Yeah, perhaps you prepare typically a 5-year forecast on these items. Is that right, Jim?
Correct.
All right, so perhaps it would be residual dollars in this account after computation of the 5-year forecast. Is that what you'd be suggesting?
It would be. I mean, as part of this memo, we did almost a 10-year horizon. So when we're even looking, beyond, I think, we would want to officially only commit to 5 years at a time. But I think as far ahead as we can look, the better off we're going to be.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Councilor Pross, did you follow that suggested revision?
I did. Yeah.
So for you.
Again, I guess it would just provide that flexibility for the budget office, because I think Jackie brought up a good point. It's kind of hard to have residual when we have a program that is based in percentages. So that's the main problem. As you're speaking to the buyer's remorse, Mayor. So I think we're trying to fit that in now, and in order to do so, it's giving the budget office some flexibility to do so, because it's kind of otherwise we're having to change up the entirety of the program. So so I'm fine with that as the motion. Again, I'd happy to hear from Councilmember Esparza after the discussion that we've just had.
Yeah, thank you. No, I'm okay with it. I think this is all about the future, right? And giving us more flexibility in the future. And as long as we have that flexibility, I think that works. Thank you.
And this again, this is Jim. I think maybe if we could add in the recommendation that we would have that daylighted as part of our city manager's annual report, which the policy already makes us come back and sort of say, hey, here's how we did, here's where the money gets rolled back over, because we could be transparent about what that need still is. And that would be the vehicle by which we would, if there was an excess amount, we would then go ahead and move that into the other bucket.
And that would be the report that comes out.
Moving it. I'm sorry, just to clear, we would not be moving it into the other bucket. We would allow homeless prevention to be part of the homeless support program. So homeless support is a very broad category. We did not pull down the language of homeless prevention and rental assistance. But I think if we could pull down that language, then we could say in excess funds, if there are excess funds after the budget forecast, that homeless prevention rental assistance would be an eligible activity in this bucket. Right. And we would still have to come to council to say, is that your preferred use? Because you have all these other homeless activities you could be funding. It's just really making it an eligible expense in that bucket.
Right.
Right. Okay. So I think that from this discussion, I've discerned that I think Councilmember Bras and I agree that through the annual city manager's report about the 5-year forecast, if there are residual dollars in that 15% category, then they may be used for prevention rental assistance. So I'd accept that as the friendly amendment, though I have to admit I'm skeptical that there'll be those dollars.
Yeah, and I'll second that. I think we have to also clarify that we're also then making the slight change that we're including homeless prevention and rental assistance in that fourth bucket. So.
Yeah, solely
because it's not today.
Solely as a residual. That is, if there are dollars left from.
Yes, solely for the residual dollars. Yeah.
All right then. I don't see other hands raised. So we have a motion in a second. So Tony?
Jimenez?
Yes.
Morales?
Yes.
Cohen?
Aye.
Roscoe?
Aye.
Davis?
Yes.
Esparza?
Yes.
Arenas?
Yes.
Foley?
Aye.
Mahan?
Aye.
Jones?
Aye.
Liccardo?
Aye.
Thank you. Motion passes.
All right. On to open forum.
Okay, I have Blair Beekman. And just a reminder, this is for items that were not already discussed on the agenda.
Hi, Blair Beekman. Thanks for clarifying myself on my previous public comment. Boy, I've missed that. I really wanted to speak on it. To simply offer at this time, I wanted to note that the COVID task force meeting had a really interesting community meeting last week, the COVID recovery task force meeting. A really interesting meeting last week. They went over, I don't know, just some ground rules, how they'll be working this summer. I invite people to check it out. It was really interesting. I was reminded that this committee, the COVID recovery task force, its email address is CERT Task Force, which to me suggests, there's some CERT characteristics involved. They want to somehow involve CERT programs. And that's good stuff. That's community emergency preparedness issues, basically. I hope that we can talk about those sort of issues more in the future of the COVID recovery task force process. All the tools are there and all the people are there to talk about it. So I know it's on your minds. I just hope it can be a bit more open discussion, whatever that can be. And it's with that a reminder, a very incredibly important reminder that there should be some commission reports that will be coming out in June that is going to describe kind of a future of the commission process itself. I thought we had planned for this months ago. Those reports should be coming into place in June. So like kind of the items that were on today's agenda will have an effect in that reporting of June. I hope this can be a good reminder for everyone. And I'm sorry I couldn't include that earlier in public comment time. And thank you for allowing myself now to, and thanks for the meeting today.
Kirk Barton.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. I'm here today to express my disappointment for the continual lack of transparency this council continues to promote around gun policies. To be fair, it seems most of this frustration is with the mayor and his office. When the mayor put forth the dozen ideas to be researched that were then under the umbrella of addressing gun violence, this body unanimously supported that action. Here's the problem. Since that date in June 2021, the mayor has been anything but transparent. He has not held any public meetings about any of the proposed ordinances. Even when invited to discuss and debate the gun tax and insurance policy ideas with San Jose Spotlight, he declined. And the mayor just marches on with a throwaway tagline, "No good deed goes unlitigated." Talk is cheap. Just look at how rushed, disorganized, and ill-prepared the city is to deal with this initial ordinance as detailed in yesterday's San Jose Spotlight article. And if the gun harm reduction ordinance process wasn't an example of a flawed way to pass a law with no community engagement, the mayor is doing it again with the next on the list, ghost guns. You may agree with the intent, but everyone in this room should demand an open and transparent process, one that engages the community and you want to avoid unintended consequences. How many meetings have taken place with the public? How much outreach? None. And the real tragedy here, will any of these laws address gun violence or stop a VTA-like shooting or address gang violence? The answer is no. Don't take my word for it, ask law enforcement. And to use the fear people have about guns to rush legislation knowing it does not address gun violence is offensive. It's true, it's virtual signaling at its worst. The mayor talks to people that goes along with his agenda, the Bradys, the Giffords, and even President Biden. How many public meetings have you held, Mr. Mayor? How many town halls? Why is that? How many public debates of discussion? Spoiler alert, none.
Calling user 1.
Amen, my brother. Amen. Hey, anyone down there at City Hall, anyone who's in favor of gun control, raise your right hand. Good. Now put it at a 45-degree angle. You fascists down there at City Hall, Sam McCarty, you should be ashamed of yourself. If all of a sudden there's going to be all these ordinances, these Hitler-like ordinances, are you going to show up on your bicycle in your cycling shoes and kick some doors in?
Okay,
let's see you do it. Let's see you do it.
No personal attacks. You can talk about topics, but you can't attack people personally.
I mean,
back to council.
Thank you, Tony. Meeting is adjourned.